All right, good morning. Welcome to class 6. There are only 2 classes left after today, one final week. So, oops, sorry. Good morning. Yep, 2 classes left after today. So we're nearing the end. If you have any questions, please make sure you're writing them down and bringing them to class, because after this, you're going to have limited access. So make sure that as you come up with questions, you're writing them down and bringing them in so we can discuss them in class. You do have my email address, though, at the top of your syllabus. So you can always email me with questions. Please be aware that I do not check my email as often as I should. I do not respond as quick as you would like. So just kind of keep that in mind. Right now, I've got over 1,000 emails in my email inbox that I have to go through. Some of them are promotions and things, but it's a lot to wade through, guys. So bring your questions to class for immediate feedback. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get your scores for chapter 7. Chapter 7 was another skills chapter. Skills we're going over in class, so it should have been pretty easy for you overall. Let's see here. Veronica. Deslin. 1. Thank you. I'm sorry, this is going to be on page, let me go back one. This is going to be on page 187. 187. Hannah. Hannah, do you have 5 and 6 for me?
Yeah, I think I got 2 on them.
2 on each?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bianca? Sylvia?
I have 1.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No. What happened is that, what I try to do is read and then, answer all the questions. Well, answer the questions without reading, and then I read and then I go back. But for some reason, I didn't remember the radial artery.
Okay.
So I was like, the first time I put the carotid, and then I put the brachial, and I made a mistake. And then I went to the answers, and it was the radial. So I really didn't do that.
Okay. So if you look at, if you turn to page, hold on, let me find it. Oh, where is Pulse? Turn to page 53 in your book. Yep, in that book. Turn to page 53. Good morning. Look at the top of the page where the care plan is. So if you look at the care plan at the top, page 53, it says, take the resonance pulse, the radial artery, and then right beside it, it says measured at the wrist for 1 full minute. So the care plan, the care plan on the exam is going to be written like that. It's going to tell you radial artery, and then it's going to tell you where that is. The radial artery is the one that we use most often for pulse. Brachial is blood pressure, BB. Brachial for blood pressure. That's this artery here. That's where we put the stethoscope to listen. Okay, so brachial blood pressure, BB. Radial and wrist sound like they start the same. They don't. There's a W in there, but the W is English, and we are weird with how we put what letters together.
Yeah, because I put 2 different answers, and when I checked the answers in the back, it was a third one. I was like, what?
So carotid is up here, and we use that for CPR. So C, carotid, C, CPR. So the best way to remember this is B is for blood pressure, C is for CPR, and the R sound is for the wrist. Okay.
I had the first question. I don't know if I was reading too fast, but it says, do not take an oral temperature if the patient is. And I don't know why I put elevated pulse. I don't know what I was thinking. I know it's on oxygen.
Right.
But I was like, why did I do that?
So the reason that we can't take a pulse when somebody's on a pulse, gosh, my brain, oral temperature when somebody is on oxygen is because the flow of oxygen is actually cool. So when, if you've ever felt oxygen coming through tubing, it's actually very cool. It's not cold, but it's very cool. It's cooler than room temperature. So when we have that going through the nose and the throat are connected at the back. Okay. So because that's wide open, so we have the nose coming down the back of the throat, we have the mouth coming down the back of the throat, and that's connected right there. As that oxygen hits that area, it kind of spreads into the mouth, which is going to cool down those oral temperatures. So when we have somebody on oxygen, because the oxygen is cool, we don't want to take an oral temperature. Does that make sense? Okay. Elevated pulse rate really doesn't have much to do with an oral temperature, but it can have something to do with an axillary temperature, because axillary is under the arm. And I know you read that in the chapter, but axillary is under the arm. And when we have an elevated pulse rate, it's going to push more blood out to the body much quicker, which means it's going to dissipate heat a little bit more. Elevated pulse rate with a temperature, very, very common. Well, that actually can kind of alter the axillary temperature reading a little bit because of that elevated pulse rate. So in most cases, we only use axillary with babies. We don't generally use it with adults too often. We just try to stay away from armpits. I mean, that's just a good general rule, you know. So in most cases, it's oral for adults and axillary for babies. Rectal only when indicated in the care plan. And generally speaking, that's going to be a nursing function. CNAs can be trained to do that. You can be trained to take a rectal temp. But in most cases, nurses are going to keep that skill for themselves rather than delegate it because of the risk, the potential risk of injury. Okay. We can perforate the rectum with a temperature probe. Right. So generally speaking, even though CNAs can be trained to do a lot of other things, remember that ultimately the nurse is going to be legally liable for whatever happens during that task. So if I'm the one that's on the hook for liability, I'm probably not going to delegate things that could put the patient at risk. Does that make sense? I'd rather do those skills myself. That way I can control what's happening since I'm responsible for it. Good? Make sense? Okay. Okay, Chelsea? Nevaeh? Okay, Nevaeh, can I get from you 1 through 6? I seem to have missed them. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Cynthia? Okay. All right. And Veronica? This is going to be on page 187.
I got 2 wrong.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions on chapter 7? Any other questions? So over the weekend, you're going to have chapters 8 and 9. I want to talk to you about chapter 8 for just a moment. It's on nutrition. It's not a very long chapter, but it is pretty dense with information. So you do need to know the food groups. Again, this is something you learned in 5th grade, right? You probably don't think much about it, but you do need to know that there are fats and proteins and carbohydrates. We need to know about vitamins and minerals and the role water plays in fluid balance. Okay, good. Yeah, it's not long, but there's a lot to it. What you do need to know for sure out of chapter 8 is the different diets. And this is going to be very relevant to CNAs because if we have a patient on a low sodium diet and you're getting snacks for that patient, you have to be able to select a low sodium snack for that patient. And if you don't understand what, foods have a lot of salt in them, you can accidentally hurt the patient by giving them the wrong thing. So it's important that we understand we truly are what we eat. And what we eat is going to play a huge role in our overall health. So pay attention to that as you're reading chapter 8. Chapter 9 is on rehabilitation. It's an easy chapter. It really isn't a very dense chapter at all. But the one thing you do need to pull out of chapter 9 that you need to know are patient positions. You need to know the difference between Fowler's and prone and supine and Sims positions. So again, flashcards might help you there. Okay. So that's the one thing that I do want you to get out of the rehabilitation chapter. And you also need to understand the kind of the goal of rehabilitation. What is rehabilitation there for? Because when we have patients in long-term care settings, they often start out in rehab. And then if they get to the point that they can care for themselves with minimal help, they get to go home. If they don't, they get transferred to long-term care. So as a CNA, you kind of have to understand when that transfer happens, what that means. So the goal is no longer to make the patient better. The goal is just to maintain what they currently have and keep it from degrading. So the difference between rehabilitation and long-term care is the goal. The skills may stay the same. It's the goal that has changed. Okay. So chapter 9 will explain a little bit of that to you. And then you'll only have one chapter left. Very quick. I know the first day it's a little overwhelming. You see these 2 big books and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to go through all of this in 4 weeks? It can seem overwhelming, but the way that we have it broken up, it should have kind of flowed for you. It shouldn't have been too terribly bad other than the first weekend. The first weekend, I know those 2 chapters were just insane. The amount of reading you had to do. I get it. I know. But after that, it should have eased up a little bit.
And all this, like puzzle way, it was your idea, and the way you did it, well, it was a good one.
Good, good.
It was a good one because just, add what we need to know.
Yeah. So learning the principles and then using those principles over and over and over again in multiple skills makes it very repetitive. So it's easy to learn and remember. And I like this way of teaching because we're just using each one of these principles as a building block that we connect together, the ones that we need for that particular skill. So it becomes really easy to build a skill. And that will help you whenever you're learning new skills out there because you will all automatically know. Okay, let's say you go to work somewhere, they want to teach you a new skill, and the patient, they're going to have to take the sheet away from the patient. So what do you automatically know that patient's going to need? A privacy blanket. You know that because we've already learned that rule. So you're not having to learn a step. It's already there. Because the patient needs a privacy blanket, you also know how you're going to have to put it on. Do you snap it or shake it? No. You also know when you take it off, right? After your gloves come off, right? So you already know this. So there's some steps you don't have to learn in that new skill. If you're going to learn a skill that requires washing something, well, you already know those steps as well. So again, it's going to simplify your learning later in life as well, because these skills apply. It doesn't matter whether you're a CNA or a nurse practitioner or an anesthesiologist or anything else. These principles that you've learned still apply. And that's why I really like the way that I teach this, because it will help you not just with the test, but throughout your entire career. Okay. Good morning. All right, so we know what to do with each patient. We're going to follow the care plan. And we follow not just the care plan, it's the care plan, the whole care plan, and nothing but the care plan. So we know not to add anything to it. We also know that while we're doing that, our most important job here is to observe for abnormalities. We want to look at any changes, anything you notice. If your brain says, huh, the nurse should know. Okay. Even if you and your brain don't think that it's important, the nurse needs to know. The nurse is the one that makes that determination. Good? Questions on that? Okay. And then we report all observations to the nurse. So this is an entire group of questions on the state exam called Follow the Care Plan questions. So if your question has in it, you are assigned to, or a nurse asks you to, you know that it's a care plan question. Doesn't matter what comes after that, you know that that's a care plan question. So you want to look at that question for those words. Are you assigned to? Did the nurse ask you to? Was this task given to you to do? So if it's a follow the care plan question, the first thing we need to know is, have I been trained to do that? If you haven't been trained, can you do that skill? No. You just tell the nurse, I haven't been trained. Can you give it to another CNA? No, because CNAs don't delegate, right? We know that. So follow the care plan questions. You are assigned to. Have you been trained? Yes. Okay, let's keep going. Which answer that's provided follows the care plan? That's your answer. Doesn't matter what the rest of the question says. If you have been assigned to perform hand and nail care to one hand, and it says the patient's got 8 hands, how many hands are you going to do? One. Why? Care plan said. Absolutely. So look for those questions. You're going to see them on the state exam. And now that you know that and you see them, you're going to go, you're going to get so excited on the state exam. You're going, that's it. That's it. I found it. There it is. So just, there's always a sentence in there that tries to explain why you shouldn't follow the care plan. Skip over that sentence. That sentence means absolutely nothing. Nothing to you. We follow the care plan. Now, if the patient is resistant, okay, if the patient is saying they're too tired, I'm not hungry, I've got an activity, if they're resisting care, we're going to encourage them to follow the care plan. So we follow the care plan, or we encourage them to follow the care plan. And if we can't do either of those two things, then we tell the nurse. Now, one of those questions, one of those answers to that type of question will always be notify the nurse. And this is where students get really tripped up because they assume that notify the nurse is the right answer to everything. It's not. There's another step in there. Encourage. So we follow the care plan, we encourage the patient to follow the care plan, and then we notify the nurse. Now, there's one exception to this. Safety. If you've been assigned to, let's say you've been assigned to walk a patient, and the patient says that they're too dizzy. Do we want to encourage that patient to walk? No. So that's an automatic tell the nurse, right? Because that's safety. Safety always trumps everything. Safety has to come first. Does that make sense? Okay, so you now have the information you need to answer a whole bunch of the questions on the state exam, a whole bunch. And it's all based on you have been assigned to. You've been assigned to. Find those questions. And if I were going through the test, I would be looking for those questions and answer them because I know that's an automatic home run out of the park. I've got a formula for that. I follow the care plan if I've been trained. I encourage the patient to follow the care plan, or I notify the nurse in that order. Just figure out which one of those it is and go for it. Easy peasy. Okay, good. Good. All right, so we also learned how to start every skill. Every skill starts with the opening. Every opening starts with a knock. So we know how to start each one of our skills. Now, I've drilled this into your brain on purpose because on testing day, you are going to be scared. You're going to be nervous. If you're not throwing up in the parking lot, I'm going to be amazed, okay? Because testing is stressful, especially skills-based testing. And I'm willing to bet that most of you guys have never had a skills-based test in your life. Almost all of your tests have been paper and pen in a classroom. This is a new situation for you. Anything new ramps up the stress level. I get that. I know that. So do the evaluators. So when you go in to take your test and they give you your care plan and now it's for real and you are ready to start, your brain is going to shut down. It's going to shut down and you're going to be staring at that patient like, what do I do? What do I do? I only want you to remember this one sentence. Every skill starts with the opening. Every opening starts with a knock. You now know where to start. And once you get that knock in, if you have practiced in your mirror every time you went to the bathroom, like I told you on day one, you have been practicing now for 3 weeks every time you walked into your bathroom. Hi, Mrs. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today, and I'm here to whatever. Is that okay? Let me close your curtain, wash my hands, get my supplies. It should be second nature to you. Once you hear that, you should automatically be able to roll into your opening. Now, if you do that, the stress of the test will melt away because you have a starting point. If you don't have a starting point, you're all over the place. You're like, okay, do I get my supplies? Let me get my supplies. I'll do that first. And then I'm going to check the ID band. And then I'm going to, privacy. I got to close the curtain. And you're just all over the place because your brain just can't really focus on any one thing. So the only thing I want you to remember when it comes time to test is every skill starts with the opening. Every opening starts with a knock. If you can do that, it'll roll right into the rest of the opening. Then you can get through the opening, get to the sink, wash your hands, and think about the supplies that you need and the steps that are involved. Buy yourself that time to get to the sink to think.
We can, during the, you know,
The exam?
whatever we're doing with the patient, can we keep looking at the,
You can look at the care plan as many times as you want to.
so we can be like, okay, for example, if we're washing and we have to wash them in the front and some places in the back, so just to make sure, okay, the neck and the back, head, to make sure we're watching exactly what we are.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. You know that you're using this table for your supplies, so I would not put the care plan here because it's going to be in your way. I would put it right here, right beside the bed, because they will have a little table just like this with 3 drawers, just like this, grooming supplies at the top, just like this, bathing supplies in the middle, just like this, toileting supplies in the bottom, just like this. But the top of this is open. Use it. Put your care plan there. That way, when you're working on the patient, you can just look over at that care plan and let it tell you what to do. Nope. You don't have to memorize it. You can look. Good? Okay. So every skill starts with the opening and every opening starts with a knock. Once you've knocked, you're going to greet your resident by name. You're going to introduce yourself by name and title. You're going to describe what you're there to do and get permission. Hi, Miss Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today, and I'm here to whatever. Is that okay? Close the curtain. Is that curtain clean? Yeah. Wash your hands, and then get your clean supplies. Now, one of the supplies that we might need for some skills is gloves. We don't wear gloves for everything. We do wear gloves if we might touch body fluids, personal skin, or non-intact skin. And if you decide to wear gloves, the first thing those gloves should touch is the patient. Keep your gloves clean for the patient, which means you're going to do all of your prep work first. Put the towel on the chest, put the privacy blanket on the patient, whatever you need to do, get the toothbrush ready, whatever steps you need to do before you do the actual skill, get all of that done before you put your gloves on. That way you're not touching a lot of stuff with those gloves. And then you're going to do the skill. After you've touched that patient, be careful what you're touching in the environment with those dirty gloves. Don't touch the curtain with those dirty gloves. Don't touch the bed controller with those dirty gloves. And please don't touch that sheet with those dirty gloves. That's going to go right up next to her face. Okay, so be careful about what you're touching. Think about your gloves. The problems that most people have with gloves is that they just wear them all the time and they stop thinking about those gloves. And not only does that bring contamination to the patient, but everything in that patient environment as well. So we have to think about it. And we're going to remove our gloves correctly. So that means that we're going to pinch up and pull that one off and then go under to pull that one off.
Have you tried to do that at work? Sometimes you get stuck. When I try to do that, it's like, it's a lot of work.
You might want to get gloves that are just a little bit bigger. Okay, a little bit bigger. Yeah, because if the gloves are if the gloves fit really, really well, it does make it a little bit harder to take off. Now, I'm going to tell you that there are two different types of gloves. There's latex gloves, and then there's vinyl or nitrile gloves. Okay, the latex gloves stretch way better. They're easier to take off. And we used to use them everywhere. Latex gloves were like the glove to wear.
So those are the blue ones?
But different colors. But the problem is that a lot of people developed latex allergies. So now in most settings, we have vinyl or nitrile gloves, and they don't, that's what you have on your table. They don't stretch like latex gloves do, which makes it a little bit harder to get off. So generally speaking, if you're using nitrile gloves, get a bigger size. It makes it a little easier to take off because they just don't have the stretch that latex do.
You already answered that question.
Okay. Right.
When I'm sweating, it's like,
Yes. And that's because they don't stretch the way that latex do. Okay. Good. All right. If we need supplies, we need a place to put those supplies. So remember that supplies we're only getting with clean hands. So we've washed our hands. We're going to get our clean supplies with clean hands, but we need a clean place to put them. So we're going to use a barrier for that purpose. Get your barrier first. Don't try to grab all of your supplies and the barrier at the same time, because you cannot hold those supplies against your uniform. Your uniform is not clean. So we wash our hands, we go get the barrier, put the barrier on the table, we go get our supplies and put the supplies on the table without touching our uniform with those supplies. Good? Good?
I'm just coming to work. I have my scrubs. I haven't touched anything. It's still dirty.
Still dirty. Yeah, because you've touched more with those scrubs than you thought you did. You've hugged your kid. You said goodbye to your dog. You sat in your car. You went through the drive-through for your coffee or your, breakfast sandwich, whatever. And when you came into the facility, you held that door open with your hip and you leaned against the wall while you were waiting to clock in. Are those scrubs actually clean? The only time that we can truly be absolutely convinced that they're clean is when they're still in the dryer. That is the only time that your scrubs are considered clean, is when they've washed and they're still in the dryer. Because the minute human hands touch them, they're not clean. Make sense? there's things that we don't really think about that we do every day it's just part of our normal routine. So one of the things that I've started doing, I haven't posted any of these yet, but I've been making make dinner with me videos for my personal channel. I have a personal channel I'm developing. It's for Miss Patty, but that's where I'm putting like what I'm reading this week, because I'm really big into fiction and things. I'm actually writing a fiction book, so I'll be posting things on that. But one of the I have Home Chef, which is a meal delivery service. They send you all of the, I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but they send you all the ingredients, like fresh ingredients and with instructions, and you make it. And it's really good. And it's really easy for nights that I have worked way too hard all day and I don't want to think about coming up with dinner plans. So I've got these kits. So I'm now videotaping this, right? And I've been cooking now for, 40 years of my life. I know how to cook. I'm not a chef, but I know how to cook. But when you start videotaping yourself doing something that you do routinely, you start realizing that you've got some bad habits that you didn't know that you even had. And now that I'm videotaping these make dinner with me videos, like I wash my hands a bazillion times. I just do, right? I teach this, right? So that's not an issue for me, washing my hands a bazillion times. But there are some other bad habits that I have that I'm just like, oh, wow. So I'm now having to become aware of what I do routinely that I never really thought about in order to think about it and how it's going to show up on camera. So if you really want to figure out what you do on a daily basis, videotape yourself for a day. It's all it'll take. Just videotape. Yeah, videotape yourself for a day. So here's a good example. Okay, I'm really good at infection control because I teach it for a living. So I don't touch like my drawers with hands that just handle meat, right? I don't do anything like that. But for instance, last night I was making their pork tenderloins, and they give you the fresh rosemary, and you've got to stem the rosemary. Okay, so you got to take all the leaves off the stem and chop up the leaves. It came out really, really good, but man, that's a lot of work. Okay, so I realized that I've got this stemmer, this little tool that you slide the stem through, and it pulls all the leaves off. And I don't know how to use it. Don't have a clue how to use it. Has a sharp edge to cut I don't know how to use that either. So I'm trying to cut these things. It's not cutting. It's not doing what it was supposed to do. So I just went over to my knife block and grabbed a knife. I did not wash my hands first. Now I'm opening a drawer. I'm getting a knife. So I've got my hand in the drawer. Now all I had touched are herbs. Not a big deal. But should my hand ever be in a drawer with clean utensils if it's not clean? No.
Oh my God, I never thought about that. No. Oh no. What's this? Don't tell me that because I do it all the time and I never wash my hands.
Right. But think about it. Should you ever go into a drawer that's holding clean? Because what environment is that drawer? Warm, dark. Doesn't have moisture usually, thankfully. We're missing that, but it's still warm and it's still dark, right? So we have a drawer full of clean things. Should you put your hands in there if they're not clean? Now, I would never reach in there with wet chicken hands, right? My brain would stop me from that. My brain would stop that.
Put like salt, pepper, or something, and then I don't know, a spoon. I open and take a spoon, and I'm fine. If I have my hands like with grease or something like
Right,
that,
then you
of
wash
course I
them.
will wash it and then dry it.
So how do you get around that, right? Well, the way you get around that is you have to think about all the supplies that you need, get them before you start, and have them laid out. So now I'm having to prep everything before I start to cook. I never did that before. Never. That's a new thing for me. So I actually went out and bought little tiny dishes for prepping. But I noticed that once I started doing that, the actual recipes became easier and quicker to prepare. So these same principles that we're learning in class can apply to our everyday lives. Does that make sense? If you prepare, if you set out everything first and make sure that you have what you need, then the skill goes easier and quicker, and you don't accidentally contaminate things that shouldn't be contaminated. I know. Well, I'm fighting against this too. Like I said, I've been cooking for 40 years. And oh my gosh, this is a big change. This is a big change. But this is why when you're watching these cooking videos, everything is already set out in little dishes and they just dump stuff in. And it's the same reason. It's the same reason. So, but I wasn't aware of that. Now, remember, I teach this for a living. So if I teach infection control for a living and wasn't aware of my own infection control problems, if you want to be aware of what you do every day, videotape you, because I guarantee you're doing things that you're not even aware you're doing. And people on social media will be happy to point it out to you. They will be absolutely happy to point it out to you. Yep. So,
Can I grab my sweater on my car?
sure, absolutely. All right. One of the supplies that we may need is a privacy blanket. Now, privacy blankets are used not just for privacy, but also for warmth. So anytime the patient's uncovered or undressed, we're going to use a privacy blanket. We'll put it on over the sheet, pull the sheet down underneath, don't snap it or shake it. And at the end of the skill, if we've worn gloves, take those gloves off first before you take the blanket off. We also learned how to handle linens. Linens are sheets, towels, blankets, clothes, anything that's used on the patient or on the patient's environment. Linens cannot touch your uniform. You have to have clean hands to get your linens. And we don't snap or shake anything. Nothing goes on the floor but shoes. I used to say feet, but then people were putting bare feet on the floor. We can't have that. So nothing goes on the floor except shoes. Don't keep linens in your room for later. Don't put them somewhere. You either use it or you discard it. And clean rolls toward me, dirty rolls away. Good? Patients must always be in the middle of the bed at all times. And you're not going to have side rails for safety. Side rails aren't there to keep the patient safe in the bed. That's your job. So in order to make sure the patient's in the middle of the bed, when we are turning them, we're going to scoot them toward us and then roll them away from us. We remain behind the patient's behind. Don't roll them towards you, roll them away. And remember that the safe zone is the middle of the bed. So it's not about the turn. It's about the patient position after the turn. That's what they're grading you on. So if you scoot a patient towards you and roll them onto their side and they're still really close to the edge of the bed because you didn't scoot them far enough, don't ignore that. It's not the fact that you turned them that you're getting the checkpoint. It's the fact that they're in the middle of the bed after the turn that gives you that checkpoint. Make sense? It's not about the steps. It's about the patient. Remember that for the test. It is not about the steps. It's about the patient. So in one of the Facebook groups, this came up this morning. Someone said that they had range of motion and they did the wrong side. And their question is, do you think that's going to fail me? And everybody was chiming in, no, that shouldn't fail you as long as you did the right exercises or, just all kinds of different justifications. And the answer is yes, and it should fail you. Because we don't know what's happening with that patient. You did something to that patient that wasn't assigned for you to do. And there could be a negative consequence to that. So what effect does this step have on the patient? That's what you're being graded on. Okay. Washing rules. All bathing is done the same way. Don't add soap to the basin. You're going to use a paper towel to turn the water on. You're going to check the water, and the patient's going to check the water. It should feel warm, not hot, not cold, just warm. If we're going to wash a wet body opening, eyes, nose, mouth, genitals, rectal area, wounds, rashes, sores, or incisions, we use the leaves method that we learned last class. You're going to see it again today. Whatever we wash, we rinse. Whatever we rinse, we dry. And if the water gets cold or soapy, change it. Try not to get your surface wet. Protect your surface. If we're working on a table, we'll use a barrier. If we're working on the floor, we'll use a barrier. If we're working on the bed, put a towel under what you're washing. Or if you're under their peri area, use a barrier. That's fine. But protect your surface. And if we're going to use lotion, warm it up first and then wipe off the excess. Wipe off with a towel. Wipe off the excess. Now, if you used a container to hold liquid, whatever that liquid is, saliva, urine, bathing water, doesn't matter, go to the bathroom and dispose of it where it normally goes. If it's body waste, put it in a toilet. If it's saliva, put it in the sink. If it's bathing water, put it in the sink. And then you rinse the basin and put the rinse water wherever the fluid went. Set it down. Pick it up with a paper towel. Dry the inside with a paper towel, throw it away. Dry the outside with a paper towel, throw it away, and then get one for the supplies in the drawer. We also learned shoe rules. If the patient's feet hit the floor, we talk about their shoes. So for ambulate, which we learned last class, patient already has shoes on. Our care plan says that. So we're going to look down and see their shoes. And we're going to say something like, are your shoes fastened well? Do your shoes fit okay? You're going to say something about those shoes. That way the evaluator knows that you know shoes are important. Okay. Slipper socks are never enough. If you're putting a gait belt on, we're going to check it with 4 fingers to make sure it's snug enough. And before we lift a patient, their feet must be flat on the floor. We're going to count to 3 before we lift them. Once they're standing, we're going to ask if they're dizzy before we move. And at the end of the skill, when we return them to the chair, we back them up so their legs feel that chair before we have them sit. We want to use proper body mechanics when we do this. So we're going to bend at the knees, wide base of support, don't bend at the back. Every skill ends the same way with the closing. We're going to ensure the environment's clean, the bed is in the low position, the patient is covered. We're going to ask about comfort and offer a magazine or something. We're going to open the privacy curtain, give them their call light. And once we've got everything else done, then we're going to go wash our hands. Once we've washed our hands, if you come back to this patient and do anything with them, if you give them their call light, if you open the curtain, if you ask them if they want a magazine, once you've washed your hands, if you come back here and do anything with this patient, you've cootied back up. What do you have to do? Wash your hands again. So make sure you get it all done before you wash your hands.
In that case, if you do it, then you go back and wash your hands again.
Yes. So if you're over at the sink, you're washing your hands, you're like, oh no, the patient isn't covered. I have to address that. So finish washing your hands, come over, cover the patient, and then go wash your hands again. The same thing. If you're over there at the sink washing your hands, realize you didn't give them the call light. They've got to have the call light. Give them the call light, but recognize the fact that you've re-cootied up and washed those hands again. If you have to document for that skill, you document after hand washing, and then you wash your hands again. Good? Questions? All right, let's go to page 72. Jake, I'm going to need the wheelchair. Actually, put it on this side so I can capture it with this camera. All right. So this is transfer from bed to wheelchair. If you look down the side here, you'll see all of the principles involved. They're all spelled out for us here, and we know all of them. There's nothing new to learn for this skill, nothing at all. Down here is our test-specific information. Somebody with your level of experience, which is none, should be able to do this in 11 minutes or less. We're transferring the patient from bed to wheelchair. They're giving us 11 minutes to do that. It does not take 11 minutes to get somebody out of bed and into a wheelchair. Don't rush this. This is going to be done on a live testing student, and that person will start out in bed. Documentation is not required for this particular skill. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's good. Right there is good. All right. So if you go to page 73, at the top of the page here, we have transfer patient from bed to wheelchair. The resident is unable to walk or take steps, but can stand with support. A gait belt or transfer belt is not required to transfer the resident, and after the transfer, the resident will stay in the room. Down here are your supplies. This patient is laying in bed at the beginning of the skill. They will not have shoes on. So what do you think you need to do for this skill? Put shoes on. Slippers, socks are not enough. You do need a gait belt for this skill. Our care plan tells us to use a gait or transfer belt. And of course, we need a wheelchair to transfer them into. We're going to talk about the wheelchair in just a minute. Okay, so when you're looking at this care plan, there's one area that I want you to highlight or underline or draw your attention to. And it says right here, the resident is unable to walk or take steps, but can stand with support. That is an important piece of information for you, because what that means is this patient can bear weight. They can stand up, but they cannot move their legs. If this wheelchair is too far away from them, when you stand them up and turn them and go to sit them down, they're going to fall because they cannot take steps. So for this skill, where you put the wheelchair, critical, because our care plan says that they cannot take steps. Now we're doing this on another live testing person. So if I've got you as the patient and I stand you up and turn you around, if you don't feel that chair behind you, you know what your legs are going to do? You'll do this to find that chair before I sit you down. You won't even be aware that you did it. It'll be completely unconscious because you will not sit down unless you know the chair is behind you. So what does that mean? Well, if the evaluator sees somebody have to take a step during the test, you did not follow the care plan. What do you think that's going to do to your score? You see why that's the important component of this skill? Okay. All right, so we know all of the principles involved. There's nothing new there to learn. So let's talk about our skill-specific steps. In order to understand how to do this particular skill, we're going to talk about the wheelchair. So this is a wheelchair. All right, Jake, you're going to on camera duty here. I need you to kind of zoom in on the wheelchair a little bit and also on this camera too. Adjust this camera. All right, so here, let me, I just can't see it because I don't have the, there we go. How's that? Okay. All right. So this is wheelchair 101. I'm just going to teach you a little bit about wheelchair parts. This is this wheelchair. No, that's the older one. Okay. So wrong wheelchair. All right. So wheelchairs are usually not stored in this configuration. It takes up too much room. So generally speaking, for the most part, your wheelchairs will be like this to begin with. A lot of people don't know how to open a wheelchair to get it ready for people. There's no buttons to push. There's no levers to pull. There's no locking mechanism. In order to open a wheelchair, you simply lift up on the handles to get the big wheels off the floor, reduce friction, and you pull it apart. That's it. That's how you open a wheelchair. To close a wheelchair for storage, you lift up on the center of the seat and the two halves go back together. Easy. All right. Wheelchairs have brakes, and those brakes are going to be located right in front of the wheels. Now, these are levers. They're lever brakes. In some wheelchairs, you're going to push forward on the brake to engage it. In some wheelchairs, you'll pull back on the levers to engage it. Doesn't matter which way your wheelchair goes. What matters is whether the bar is biting into the wheels. So let me go, hold on. I don't have one on there. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So Jake's going to zoom in for us here on this brake. You'll be able to see it on the screen. Everybody see that? Okay. This is an unlocked brake. Now here, you should be able to see a gap between the metal bar and the wheel. There's a gap there. When I pull this, that bar, see how that bar moves? That bar bites into that wheel and now the brake is engaged. So this lever, it doesn't matter whether you have to pull it back to do that or in some wheelchairs push it forward to do that. What you want to make sure is that that bar bites into the wheel. That's how we know the brake is on. Good? Good? Okay. There's one on each side. Then we have the leg rests and the foot pedals. These are way more important than you think they are. Way more important than you think they are. Leg rests on a wheelchair. I really should have given myself more room here. Leg rests on a wheelchair are here, okay? They're locked into place here. They're not moving, but there's a little catch on the back that swings them out to the side. And I need it in this configuration for patients to be able to get in or out of the wheelchair. We don't want anything in front. Once the patient is in the wheelchair, we can swing these forward and they lock in place. So listen to that lock. Hear that lock in place? Same thing with this one. We just swing it around and it locks in place. Good? Good. Okay. In order to release this leg rest so it swings out, there's a little catch right back here on the back of the wheel. Bring this over so you can see. A little catch. And if I pull on that lever, it just swings out. It snaps in place. So this little catch here, right here, is what releases it. Okay, and you guys will have a chance to play with the wheelchair in a little while. Now, once we have the leg rests in place, we have foot pedals at the bottom here that simply fold down. Those are going to support the feet. So the three things that you need to know about a wheelchair are the brakes, the leg rests, and the foot pedals. And each one of those is going to have to be adjusted in some way during this skill. So let me explain. There's a couple of different configurations for wheelchairs. When the foot pedals are down, the leg rests are out, this is when somebody is in the wheelchair. If we're going to store the wheelchair, right, we're going to pull up on the seat, bring the two halves together. The foot pedals are up, but the leg rests stay locked forward. Patty says, Patty, you're the best. God bless you for all that you do in helping us. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you. You made my day. Okay, so when we have a wheelchair that we're going to store, we want to fold these foot pedals up, but we want these leg rests to stay locked in place so that when I reduce the size, when I compact this wheelchair, those leg rests aren't flying out there unsecured and can hit somebody. We want those leg rests secured so we don't cause injury. Good. Now, this configuration here, foot pedals up, leg rests all the way out, that's when we're putting a patient into the wheelchair or out of the wheelchair. Good. So this is when somebody's in it. This is when it's being stored. This is what we're using during transfers. Questions? All right, so let's talk about brakes. Brakes are easy. If the wheelchair is actively in motion, brakes are off. For everything else, brakes are locked. So if the wheelchair is actively in motion, brakes are off. Everything else, wheelchair should be locked. Now you're going to see a differing opinion on YouTube videos. There's a lot of people out there that say a locked wheelchair is a restraint, and that is absolutely untrue. Untrue. Locked wheelchairs are not a restraint. A locked wheelchair is safe because floors are rarely even or level. If you have a floor that is not level and you have a body in a wheelchair that is unlocked, if that wheelchair starts to roll, it will develop momentum because there's weight to it. And the only thing that's going to stop that wheelchair is whatever it bumps into, which means this patient is likely to get hurt and probably another patient is likely to get hurt. Wheelchairs must be locked. Now, if this patient can self-propel, if they can go on their own, they unlock the wheelchair, go anywhere they want to. It's not a restraint. Okay? So let's talk about why foot pedals are so important. And this is probably the saddest example that I give you in this class. And I feel so bad for this lady. So bad. But there was an employee in Georgia that she worked the reception desk. And there was an older woman and her daughter that came into the facility for the older woman to get x-rays. And she was having trouble walking, x-rays of her hip or something. She was having trouble walking. So transport actually took a wheelchair out, helped her into the wheelchair, took her into the facility. She got her imaging. She's ready to go home. She's in the wheelchair waiting. Daughter goes out to the car, pulls the car up to the front, and the mom had to get to the car to be able to go home. Well, the receptionist calls transport, says, hey, this lady's ready to go. Can you come down? Transport said, yeah, just a minute. Daughter has already got the car up front. There's traffic building up behind, waiting to drop people off. She's blocking. Nobody is there to take this woman out to the car. So the receptionist wants to do a good deed. And she gets up and takes the patient in the wheelchair out to the car, but she had not been trained on how to use a wheelchair. This was not in her scope of practice. Now, we all tend to think we know how to use a wheelchair. This can't be that hard. I'll figure it out. So she takes the patient in the wheelchair out to the car, and she flips up the foot pedals like this, but she does not know to move those leg rests out of the way. And the patient tripped over the foot pedal and leg rest, fell between the car and the curb, and broke her leg. She's not going home now. She's getting admitted. Whose fault was it? The receptionist. And it was the receptionist's fault because she was operating outside of her scope of practice. She was not trained to transport patients or transfer patients. That was not in her scope of practice. She operated outside of what she was authorized to do. Now, I feel bad for her because she was just trying to do a good deed. She sees the traffic backing up. She thinks, I can just take this patient out. I can solve all the problems. I'll be a hero. Great job, me. Yay. And she ended up seriously injuring somebody.
That's why I understand why certain people don't do certain things.
Right.
And we wonder, well, why can't you just help?
Yeah,
We really don't know. So now I
Something
get
like
that
that.
now.
Yep.
Before I didn't.
Yeah,
But
something
I
like
get
that
it.
happened where I work. People from maintenance, most of them are men, and they are big, like friends. And we ask for help, we are aides, and sometimes somebody fall or we're trying to transfer them, and they are sick, but they are big guys. So we call, well, not me, but they call for help, and they get upset because people from maintenance said, no, I can't help you to transfer them from the bed to the chair because we are not trained for that.
Right.
And they get upset.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
one day in a meeting, the boss from maintenance, the manager said, we are not going to help you because we are not trained. If something happens, it's gonna be our fault.
Yes.
That's right.
Even if they are big, you have to talk for them. We are not going to help you. Please don't call us because
They can't.
if we want,
Right.
we're not gonna help.
Right.
I get it
Yeah,
now.
and that
Didn't get
happens
it
all the
before,
time.
but I get it now.
It's not what we know that gets us in trouble. It's what we don't know that we don't know. Does that make sense? Right? You have gaps in your knowledge that you have no idea exist. And I probably have illuminated a lot of things for you during this class that you were like, oh, I never really thought about that. You have those gaps in every part of your life. You do not have 100% knowledge in anything. Now, I am a CNA teaching expert. I do not have 100% knowledge on all things CNA. Even as an expert, I do not have 100% knowledge. Nobody does. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that in mind when you're looking to do something that you haven't been trained to do. Okay? There's things here that you don't know to watch out for. And that's the one thing that's probably going to put your patient at risk. Make sense? But yeah, I feel super bad for this lady, this receptionist, because she was just trying to do a good job. She was fired. The facility was sued. Yeah, I mean, this was a big deal. This was a big deal. And I feel bad for everybody involved. But, at the end of the day, it wasn't this patient's fault, but she's the one that has to pay the price for it. And that's not fair. So just be careful. Understand the role of leg rests, that they have to be moved so that they're not a tripping hazard, but also understand that we have to operate within our scope of practice, which is why we have to make sure that we understand our scope of practice as a CNA, because that's what's going to show up on the written exam. It's because of things like this. Okay, good. Okay, let's talk about foot pedals now. Foot pedals are super important, and I have gone into facilities all the time and seen patients sitting in a wheelchair with their legs dangling and no leg rests or foot pedals in sight. So these leg rests, Jake, I'll need you to zoom again, please. These leg rests here, these leg rests right here, okay, remember they clip in. They just literally hang there. There's two, and you're really going to have to zoom here, Jake. I'll turn this. Whoa, no. I need more room over here. Okay. All right. Do you see these two little posts here? This literally just sets right on those posts. That's it. So these things come off super easy. And in most facilities, they get taken off and thrown somewhere. And you go to get a wheelchair to put a patient in, and there are no leg rests. Who knows where they are? Good luck. Because they come off very easily. They also go on very easily. You just put them on the post, and there they are. Now, That is danger. Okay, Jake, thanks. That is dangerous for our patients. And this is why. You have veins and arteries in the backs of your legs. Arteries bring blood down to your feet. Veins bring blood back to your heart. And they lay one right on top of the other. Arteries are deeper than veins. Veins are closer to the surface. These are running down the backs of your legs, but particularly right here at the back of the knee, it's really super close to your skin. Not a lot of muscle there. Okay, good. All right, so this is the part of the body that bends when we're sitting in a chair, the knees. That means that this area of the vein, where the knee bends is going to get compressed. Remember gravity? Between the edge of the chair and the weight of the leg. So we crimp that vein down. This is why we have to be able to put our feet on the floor. When your feet are on the floor, we don't have gravity pulling that much weight down. You relieve that pressure. Make sense? Good. If we have a wheelchair and a patient in a wheelchair, and we don't have anything for their feet to rest on, and they're just dangling out there in midair because wheelchairs are taller than regular chairs, then those veins are going to get compressed. Now, I told you last class what happens when blood slows down or stops. It clots. Blood that slows down or stops clots. We are crimping those veins. That means that the blood is slowing down or stopping. What is this patient at risk for? Blood clots in their legs because we have reduced the amount of circulation that goes back up to the heart. And it's all because of the weight of those dangling legs crimping down those veins. We also end up with swelling in the legs. So those foot pedals are there for a reason. They keep the legs kind of supported so that we don't have all of that gravity weight along the backs of the legs, crimping those veins down. Inside your veins are really cool. They're really cool. Inside the veins, because this blood has to go from my feet back up to the heart, it's got to fight gravity. And it can't do that on its own. Like there's not enough force to push all of the blood up to my heart. It's got to climb a ladder. So when a heart beats, this blood gets pushed into this chamber, the heart relaxes and valves close. The next heartbeat, this blood gets pushed through those valves into this chamber, the heart relaxes, the valves close. And this is how blood moves back up to your heart through these little chambers. Well, the problem is these valves, although they're good, they serve a purpose. They also trap blood flow when they're compressed. And this is why our patients are at risk of blood clots. Make sense? So should a patient's legs ever dangle? No, that's what I need you to take from this. Patients' legs should never dangle. They have to be supported on those foot pedals. So during this skill, if you do this skill and you don't put the patient's feet on those foot pedals, this patient is at risk for blood clots and swelling. Do you think you're going to pass? No. It's not because you forgot a step. It's the consequence on the patient for that step not being done. Good? Foot pedals are important. They must be used. All right, so for this skill, we're going to get our patient sitting up on the side of the bed. We're going to put a gait belt on him and shoes on him. Does not matter what order you do that. You want to put shoes on first? Fine. You want to put the gait belt on first? Go for it. Nobody cares. Just get them both done. So we've got a patient sitting on the side of the bed with shoes and a gait belt on. We're ready to put them into the wheelchair. We don't want to leave this patient sitting on the side of the bed. So that wheelchair has to be within reach. But if I bring this wheelchair super duper close to me, before I try to swing this patient around to sit on the side of the bed, their legs are going to get all tangled up in that wheelchair and there's going to be injury. Make sense? So at the beginning of this skill, we want the wheelchair close enough to grab without leaving the patient, but not so close that we can't get them sitting on the side of the bed, that they're going to get their legs tangled in the wheelchair. So I'm going to put the wheelchair right about there. I'm going to twist the patient around so they're sitting on the side of the bed. This is called a pivot. And once I get their shoes on and the gait belt on, then I'm still here with the patient. I can just pull this wheelchair super close. Got it? Got it? All right. Now, how close? How close do we need to get that wheelchair to the patient? Remember I said that they cannot take steps? You guys remember that? They cannot, the care plan says they cannot take steps. That's going to tell us how close we have to be to that patient. Now, before I get this wheelchair close to the patient, I want to make sure those foot pedals are up and those leg rests are swung out of the way like this so that we don't have any tripping hazards there for the patient. So once I have the patient pivoted, I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. Shoes on, gait belt fastened. I'm going to bring that wheelchair super close to the patient. Now, do you see how close this is? That's actually not close enough. We should only be able to fit a single piece of paper between this resident's knee and that seat. That's how close it needs to be. So when I've got this patient sitting on the side of the bed, I'm going to bring this wheelchair right up to their knee. And then I'm going to lock it. I don't want it touching their knee, but I'm going to lock it because when I pivot this patient, right, that knee is going to twist out in this way. So where right now it's right up next to the wheelchair, by the time I'm done pivoting them, it's going to be way over here. This leg has to be able to touch that wheelchair. Remember, we can't put somebody in a chair unless they can feel it behind them. Now, if I've got this wheelchair out here and I lift the patient and pivot them, they're not anywhere near that chair. They're going to have to take a step. And what does care plan say they can't do? They can't. So getting this wheelchair close enough for this pivot transfer is our critical checkpoint. Got it? Now, of course, before we put the patient into the wheelchair, we have to make sure it's locked because otherwise it's going to roll away from us. So I want to bring this wheelchair super close, make sure the foot pedals are up, the leg rests are out, lock the wheelchair, get it super, super close, lift the patient up, pivot them around, make sure they can feel that chair behind them, and then help them sit. They give us 11 minutes to do that. We have a little bit more to go, but less than a minute. Okay. Questions on this?
Would you take longer to get them in there over your time?
Okay, let's talk about timing. Let's talk about timing. That's a good segue into this. Go to page 71. There is a formula. It is on the bottom of this. Each one of your care plan sets. So there's a little graph there on page 71 that tells you the time that's assigned for every skill that you're going to be asked to do. So let's work on, well, let's find the wheelchair one. Hold on. Okay. So this care plan set is the one that you got. You are going to measure and record contents of urinary drainage bag. You're going to transfer the resident from bed to wheelchair, and you're going to provide hand and nail care. Those are your 3 skills that you're going to do for the exam. So if you look at that little chart, tell me how much time they have given you for measure and record urinary drainage bag. 9 minutes. Okay, so keep that in mind, 9 minutes. Transfer resident from bed to wheelchair. How much time did I tell you we had for that? 11 minutes. So let's add 9 and 11. That's 20. Now look up how much time we have for hand and nail care in that graph. 11. So 20 plus 11 is 31. So right now we have 31 minutes to do all 3 of those skills. It's not time per skill. You get a total time, 31 minutes to do those 3 skills. So hold that thought. You're not done yet, because the total amount of time for this skill set is actually 39 minutes. So wait a minute, we said 31. Where did the rest of the time come from? They're going to give you 3 extra minutes just for hand washing. So your hand washing doesn't count in that skill time. So 31 minutes plus 3. They're also going to give us 5 minutes of transition time or thinking time. So 5 bonus minutes. Okay. So we have 39 minutes to do these 3 skills. So if you run over on wheelchair, you're not timed per skill. You have 39 minutes total to get all 3 skills done. So let's say you take 16 minutes to transfer a patient into the wheelchair. Well, that just means you have a little bit less time for the other 2 skills. Good? Are you with me so far? Now, at the 5-minute mark, when you only have 5 minutes left, that evaluator is going to tell you 5-minute warning. So now you know I've only got 5 minutes left. So our last skill was hand and nail care. And we know that we only have 5 minutes left. So I know I'm not going to get that skill completely done. Do you guys remember me showing you on this screen the checklists? You guys remember you seeing the checklists and we have all the colors that I do at every single skill? Do you guys remember seeing that half of almost every skill is the opening and the closing, right? So the 2 things you need to know without thinking are the opening and the closing. So I know I can do my opening and closing if I go super fast, those 2 things in a minute. My opening takes about 15. If I hold 2 fingers up, I get balloons. The opening takes about 15 seconds if I go really fast. The closing takes about 25 seconds if I go really fast. So less than a minute, I can get my opening and closing out of the way. Good. So that leaves me 4 minutes to do hand and nail care. Can I do this in 4 minutes? Yeah, if I go really, really fast. So I'm going to do my opening, say I'm going to wash my hands, because remember, by the time we get down here, we're simulating hand washing. I'm going to grab my barrier, put it on the table. I'm going to get my supplies. I'm going to go get water. I'm going to check it, ask her to check it, put your hand in the basin. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to wash it real quick. I'm going to put it in to rinse real quick. I'm going to take it out to dry it real quick. And I'm now cleaning under the nails. I haven't got to file yet. I don't have time for lotion. So my choice is this. Do I file and lotion, or do I stop what I'm doing and clean up and get my closing done? Which one of those is going to give me more checkpoints? The closing. So I would stop. I would sacrifice those steps. I know I'm not going to get to those, but I know that my closing is more important. Does that make sense? So when you get a 5-minute warning, do as much as you can in that skill, as much as you possibly can, but make sure you're leaving yourself at least a minute to get your closing done. Good? Good. My students do not time out. I have not had a student time out in years. You guys are really good. You understand what needs to be done. So you guys don't time out. That's not really an issue for you. I'll get to the comment in a minute. That's not really an issue for you. You won't time out, but understand it's not about the time. It's about the checkpoints. Okay. If you time out, it's not an automatic failure. You're just not going to get credit for anything without a checkpoint. All right. Wilmita says, hi, Miss Patty. Just wanted to say thank you. I passed my CNA exams and just started my first job. It's all about your videos. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you. Congratulations. Super proud of you. Thank you for your videos. Shans says, thank you for your videos. They helped me pass my HCA skills exam last Wednesday. I passed with flying colors. Looking forward to CNA now. Congratulations to you as well. Yeah, we actually used to be an educational partner for HCA. They used to use our entire platform. And Taddy says, yay, congratulations to everyone that passed their exams already. Absolutely, absolutely. Great job. You guys are all going to be fine. Okay, you guys are all going to be fine. All right, so please make sure the wheelchair is locked before the transfer. So unlocked has a gap. Locked, that bar is biting into the wheel. Patient has to have shoes on. We already know this. This is nothing new for us. And we're going to use that same body mechanics that we use with transfer. 1 foot in front of their feet, 1 foot beside their legs, and that way their feet don't slip out. Remember that our care plan says the patient cannot take steps. Now, this is important, right? We need 2 whole checkpoints on this. So it's really important that we get that wheelchair close enough that they can feel that chair behind them before they sit down, and that we're doing this as a smooth pivot transfer without them taking steps to get those 2 checkpoints. We'll put the feet on the foot pedals and make sure the wheelchair is locked before we leave. Whoops, what happened there? What was that? Oh, we'll take the gate belt off using that same technique that we learned. And at the end of the skill, just take a look at your patient. Do they look comfortable, right? Remember, it's all about the patient, not about the steps. All right, so now that we know all of those checkpoints, let's check off our checklist. We're going to follow that care plan. We're going to do our opening. We're going to decide if we need gloves. Now, for the test, your patient is another testing student, fully clothed, holding onto all of their own body fluids, has no wounds. You don't need gloves for that. In a clinical setting, your patient might not be fully clothed. You need gloves. They may not be holding onto all their own body fluids. Wear some gloves. They may have wounds, rashes, or incisions. Wear some gloves. It's based on the patient, not the skill. We're going to use our shoe rules. Okay, so make sure they have shoes on. Make sure they're fastened appropriately. Make sure their feet are flat on the floor. Count to 3 before we lift them. Check that gate belt to make sure it's tight enough. All of those things are going to be graded. We're going to do our skill-specific steps. Make sure that wheelchair is close to the patient. Make sure that the footrests or foot pedals and leg rests are out of the way. Make sure the wheelchair is locked. All of those things. And then we're going to do our closing. If we've done them all right, we'll get 100%. And our students do fantastic on this. Okay, good. And remember, this care plan is only for this patient, not for anybody else. Other care plans will be for other patients based on their level of ability. Now, I do want to talk to you just real quickly about that whole pivot thing. How do we get somebody sitting on the side of the bed, right? Not nearly as hard as you think it is. You can actually pivot somebody bigger than you with very little stress on you or them. And the way that we do that is we ask the patient to scoot toward us. We want them close to us to do this. So you have the patient scoot towards you. Remember, for the test, it's a live patient, so they can scoot towards you. Now, I'm going to stand shoulder width apart. So I want my feet like in line with my shoulders here. I'm going to make sure the bed is locked because I need to use that bed for torque. So I'm going to lean my knees against that bed just so I've got some leverage here. Okay. I'm going to bend at the knees, not at the hips. Bend at the knees. Now, I'm going to ask my patient to cross their arms over their shoulders or over their chest like this. That keeps them moving as a unit. Just like when we lifted them, they put their hands on my shoulders to keep them as a unit. That's what this is going to do, keep them as a unit in the bed. Very similar to when we turned them on their side. They were like this, right? This time they're like this. So I'm going to put this hand under the shoulders. Everybody's got that part down. We know that intellectually, put this hand under the shoulders. But most people don't put it far enough. They just kind of slide it just like under this shoulder. No, it's got to go under the shoulders. Like That furthest shoulder should be in the palm of my hand all the way because I want this part of my arm to do the work, not this part. This part's strong. This part, not as much. Good? So all the way under the shoulders. Now, this is the arm that gets everybody in trouble. I got this arm right. I'm leaning against the bed. I'm good. Everybody tries to put this arm under the knees. We're not doing a honeymoon carry. Okay, we're not taking anybody over a threshold anywhere. This arm is going over the knees, not under. Now, when you have this arm over the knees and this arm under the shoulders, it's just a simple turn. And you can actually pivot somebody bigger than you with no stress as long as this arm is not under the knees. Because if you're like this, now you're trying to push and pull, and that torques your back. This, smooth glide. Now, once I get him sitting on the side of the bed, it's a quick turn, guys. It's quick, way quicker than you think it's going to be. If you need to put the head of the bed up because you don't have a lot of upper body strength, you can do that to help you out. So then it's just a quick little, pivot. That's fine. You can do that. I don't because I want that leverage. I want that torque and momentum. For me, it's easier if they're not sitting up because then I get that, woo, right? Their top moves their bottom. Okay, good. Once you get them sitting up on the side of the bed, let them sit for a second. Make sure they're not dizzy. Let them dangle a minute and then put the gait belt on and the shoes. Questions?
So for the test, the other student will take their shoes off and then you just put it on for them?
Right. Now, for the test, most of the evaluators out there want to be at home in their pools, drinking their margaritas, not at work, just like you. Okay. So when they're picking students to be your partner, when they check you in, and I know as the evaluator, I know that you have wheelchair. So because it's coded into your number, I know what skills you have just by looking at your number. So I look at you, okay, and I kind of pay attention to what your body size is and how you move and stuff when I check you in. I'm a nurse. I assess like I breathe. Okay. Now, I know that you have wheelchair. So when I'm checking the rest of you in, I'm kind of looking for somebody your body size or smaller, and preferably somebody that has slip-on shoes. You would become her patient for this skill because the body size works, right? You're taller, she's shorter. So they try not to do anything that's like really off balance, somebody really taller or shorter than you. So somebody about your body size roughly. And I know that you've got easy slip-on shoes. So cool. But let's say that you just sprained your ankle and you're limping. Well, I can't use you for that. So I'm going to switch over to you because those shoes look like they probably just slip on and no tying required. So you guys did not know that I paid attention to your shoes today, did you? I am a nurse. I assess like I breathe. So those evaluators are paying way more attention to things than you know they are. Okay, but they're going to try to make this as easy as possible for you because they really don't want to sit there while you fumble with shoelaces. They want to be at home in their pools, drinking their margaritas.
About how many people goes to take the test on the same day? For example, those
8.
evaluators want to go home, but they have to.
8. The testing center always tests 8 people on a testing day.
Okay, so
Always 8. Always
so
8.
it'll take about how long for each? Like half an hour per person?
So figure about 40 minutes per person. Okay. So let's say that these two are group 1. I'm going to tell you two, group 2, you've got about an hour before you have to be in the waiting room. Okay. So be back here in about an hour, but you can go to your car and you can study. You can go to Dunkin' and get a coffee. You can go do something. You don't have to stay in the waiting room. You guys are group 3. You've got about 2 hours before you have to be back. So target clearance shopping, go clear your head. Group 4, you've got about 2.5 hours. I want you back in about 2.5 hours. So 2 for 1 margaritas at Chili's. We'll see you in a while. We'll come back over here. You'll do your skills on her. She'll do her skills on you. You'll go back out to the waiting room. We'll bring in group 2. Okay. So you want to be back in the waiting room 10 to 15 minutes before they tell you to, just in case these people get done quick. So this moves things along very quickly. Make sense? Good. All right. Once everybody has done their skills, so if you kind of time that out, you can see that we're right around 3 to 3.5 hours. So if we start at 9, that means by 12:30, right, we're on to our written test. When you take the written test, whenever you're done is when you get to leave. So some people do the written test in like 20 minutes. So if you're in the written test room at 12:30 and you're done in 20 minutes, you're out before 1 and you get your test scores as you walk out the building. Nope, they give it to you as you walk out the building, but they cannot talk to you about those scores, and they'll tell you don't open these papers until you leave. You cannot. You got to wait till you're exiting the building, and they're strict about that. And the reason is because it happens all the time. People will peek and they'll go, "What do you mean I failed? I did all the steps." And then they start to argue. Okay, so they won't. They'll be very strict about that. Do not open those. So 8 are what's scheduled. Now, sometimes people won't show up. Sometimes some of those 8 people are retesters. So they may not be there for both parts. They may only be there to retake the skills. They may only be there to retake the written. Now, if I've got several people that are there to retake the written, we're probably going to do that first and get that out of the way so those people can go. They've already done their full skill. They don't need to be here all day. Let's do the written first and then. Make sense? Good. Okay, there are some testing centers in our area that do 2 sets of 8. Remember, each set has to have 2 evaluators. So that means there's 4 evaluators there on that day. And each set of evaluators, set of 2, can do 8. Good? Make sense? Good? Okay, so that should answer your question. 8 people. Now, sometimes people don't show. That happens. Sometimes people will be pushed out because they didn't bring their IDs. They can't test. So we start out, we schedule 8, but that doesn't always mean that 8 are actually going to be there and test.
If it's like a uneven number, does it just mean someone else will just be a patient again?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
I have a question. So do you have to have 100, like 100, or is it just like?
No, you don't. You don't have to have 100 on the written. You don't have to have 100 on the skills. I want you to,
Yeah.
obviously, because if I'm the Bonnie in the bed, I want good care, right? There's a reason I'm doing this, guys. I'm getting older. I want to make sure that there's enough good people around here to take care of me. Okay. So I want you to have 100. And the way I'm teaching you, you probably will. You may forget 1 or 2 things, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I missed one thing and failed, unless that one thing was super important.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't put the head of the bed up before you brush this guy's teeth, yeah, you're going to fail. One step failed you, but that one step had a huge impact on the patient. Does that make sense? So what we have to look at is not just how many can we miss, it's what impact did that step have on the patient. Now, hopefully I've done my job well, and it would never dawn on you to do those, to forget those steps, right? That would put your patient at risk. You would look at that and go, oh yeah, no, yeah, that's not going to happen. So I'm all about making you aware of those steps, and chances are you're not going to miss them. Okay, now let's talk about the written. The written test is not that easy. I can't tell you you can miss 7 things on the written test and pass, because there's 5 categories of questions on the written test, and each one have a different number of questions. And there's one category that has 7 questions. You have to pass each category. So if you miss 4 questions from that category, you didn't pass that category, which means you failed the whole written. And that's because I can't have people that are great at giving bed baths. Congratulations, great job. But you don't know anything about your role. Well, what does that tell me? You're going to be out there making up stuff on your own and doing stuff with patients that you're not supposed to do. You may give a great bed bath. Congratulations, that's great. but you're giving bed baths where you shouldn't be giving bed baths. And that doesn't keep my patients safe. Make sense? So you have to pass each section on the exam. Okay? Make sense? Good? Questions on that? There's also one question on the state exam, and I'm giving you a test secret here now. Okay? Test secret. There is one question on the state exam that's called a critical concept question. And that question is written in a very specific way.
Yes.
Yeah, you need to get up and walk or something because I can't talk over that. Okay, so I'm sorry, I got distracted. Critical concept question. So that it looks just like a regular question, right? You have a question, you got 4 answers, you've got 1 right answer, 3 wrong answers, just like a regular question. But one of those wrong answers actively puts our patient at risk. And if you choose that answer and you actively put a patient at risk in an emergency, what's going to happen? Right? The patient's going to have a consequence to that. So that particular question, if you choose the wrong answer, right, the one that puts our patient at risk, and it's always an emergency question like fire safety, okay? If you leave a patient in the same place as a fire, you're putting them at risk. You will fail the test because in an emergency, we don't have time to go ask the nurse. We don't have time to look it up. We have to act, and we have to act correctly. So that particular question, if you answer it right, great job. It counts just like every other question. If you answer it wrong, that's fine. Counts just like every other question. But if you pick that one answer that leaves the patient with the fire, you will fail the whole test. That's what it's really about. Does that make sense? There's only one on the state exam.
So if there's fire and in my case, for example, I have 12 residents. If there's a fire, I won't have time to take all of them.
You can't leave them in the same place as a fire. So if the fire's only in one room when it starts.
Ah, okay. So I take, the person that is in the
Right.
fire.
Right. Patients and fires can't be in the same place at the same time.
So that the first thing that we have to do is take the patient
Right.
from the fire.
Yes.
And then,
Get the rest of the patients out.
Okay.
Right? So patient first, always patient first, always. Okay. If a patient is choking in the dining room and they can't make any sounds and their hands are up here at their throat. Yeah, they can't make any sounds. It tells us it's a complete occlusion. So what would you do? A, leave to go get the nurse. B, give them a drink of water. C, wait to see if they get better. Or D, perform an abdominal thrust. D, right? If you chose A, if you left a patient in distress alone, it is an automatic failure. Why? Never leave a patient in distress alone. Can you imagine how frightening that would be? I'm dying, literally. I am standing here dying in front of you and you're gone. Right? I expect you to know what to do. You're healthcare professionals. You have initials behind your name. Do you understand the responsibility there? When you get initials behind your name, it's the only industry you can go to school for 4 weeks and get initials. Think about that. You get initials behind your name, there is a responsibility that goes with that. If you leave that patient alone in an emergency, you have absolutely disrespected those initials. You should not be a CNA. And I'll stand behind that every day. So I'm in agreement with those critical concept questions. In an emergency, you have to know what to do. Don't leave your patient alone. Act. Safety requires action. Okay? Let's watch the video.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jones. My name is Patty, and I'm your CNA today. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. Do you feel like going for a little walk?
Yes, that'd be lovely.
I'm going to close your curtain, wash my hands, get my supplies, and I'll be right back. I'm going to clear the walkway of obstructions. Close the privacy curtain.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. Would you like to get out of bed and into the wheelchair?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll be happy to help you with that. Let me close your curtain, wash my hands, get my supplies, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'll grab the gate belt. And I'm going to bring the wheelchair within reach, but not too close to the bed. All right, Mr. Jones, I'm just going to remove your sheet. We'll pull it all the way to the end of the bed. And I'm going to help you sit up on the edge of the bed. So to do that, can you scoot your body toward me? Bed is locked. You're going to cross your arms over your chest and relax. I'll do all the work. I'm just going to pivot you around so you're sitting on the side of the bed. Please let me know if you get dizzy or unstable at all. So I'm going to wide base of support, leaning against the bed, making sure the wheels are locked. I'm going to place one arm all the way under the shoulders and the other arm over the knees, bending at the knees, not the waist, and we're going to pivot. 1, 2, 3. Good?
Yes.
Okay, you can relax your arms. I'm going to help you put your shoes on now. Okay, first shoe and the second shoe. And are your feet flat on the floor?
Yes.
I'm going to place this gate belt around your waist, making sure that it's not twisted or kinked. And we'll secure it by sliding the gate belt into the first guard, pulling it so that it's snug. We'll check it with 4 fingers, and then slide it through the second guard. I'm going to bring the wheelchair close at a slight angle, almost touching the patient. And we'll lock the wheels. All right, Mr. Jones, can you bring your feet together and back a little? Are your feet flat on the floor?
Yes.
You're going to place your hands on my shoulders. I'm going to lift you to a standing position, pivot you, and when you feel that seat behind your knees, I want you to say sit, and I'll help you sit.
Okay.
Okay, you're going to place your hands up here. And on the count of 3, we're going to lift and pivot. 1, 2, 3.
Sit.
And we'll remove that gate belt. Okay, and I'm just going to bring the gate belt behind you and turn you around to get your feet onto the foot pedals. So we're going to turn around. I'm going to bring the first foot pedal forward. Make sure it locks into place. And then place the foot on the foot pedal. We'll then lock the wheelchair. I'll lock this side, support your leg, bring the leg rest and the foot pedal, and support the foot. Are you comfortable?
Yes.
Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here?
No, thank you.
Would you like a magazine before I go?
No, thank you.
Let me get your call light. Here's your call light. If you
Thank
need
you.
anything at all, just press that red button and somebody will be happy to come help. I'm going to open the curtain and go wash my hands. On the way, I'll return the gate belt to storage. After washing my hands, I'll think about my skill, make any corrections, and tell the evaluator my skill is done.
Okay, any questions? Any questions on that one? No? Let's go ahead and take our break. When we get back, we're going to get into the next two skills and hopefully we'll have some time for practice. 64.
Thank you. All right, so the next skill that we're going to learn how to do is feeding a patient. Most people know how to feed another human. Yeah, we got to learn the right way to do it, but there's not much here that we have to think about as far as the feeding part. But feeding doesn't follow a lot of our normal rules. So we kind of have to talk a little bit about that part of it. So a lot of the things that we've already learned to do, we're not going to apply to this skill. And we have to talk about why we're not going to apply those rules. We also want to talk a little bit about intake and output as it relates to CNA work. So we do have some lecture for this. The skill itself is pretty easy, but there's some things that we kind of have to know on the back end. So down here, you can see all the rules involved. They're all spelled out for us here. We know all of them. Nothing new to learn here other than our skill specific. Down here, we have test specific information. Somebody with your level of ability, which is none, should be able to do this within 9 minutes. It is going to be done on another live testing student. That means that you might be eating something during the exam. I'll explain that in a minute. And the student will be positioned in a chair at the beginning of the skill. This is a charting skill, a documentation skill. So page 109 gives us our step-by-step instructions. Care plan is at the very top. Step-by-step instructions. Supplies are at the bottom. You have to know your supplies. For this skill, if you are a patient for this skill, so let's say that you are going to be the patient for her to feed. You're going to be getting some very specific instructions. They're going to tell you, go sit in that chair at the table and slouch or slump. Now, your idea of slouching or slumping may be very different than mine, okay? 10 or 12-year-olds will eat like this, right? Is this sitting up straight? So even though you may think that that's perfectly okay to eat that way, the test says no. And I'm going to explain why in just a minute. Sorry. I'm going to explain why in just a minute, but just know that you'll get very specific instructions. One of the other instructions that you'll get for this particular skill, if you're the patient, is only take 4 bites and then say you're done. You're finished. You don't want any more. Refuse anything else. No matter what they say, just refuse. So 4 bites is all you're going to take for the exam. Good? So as a patient, you're going to get very specific instructions you are going to follow. So here's our care plan. It says feed the resident a snack. Does it say meal? No. Snack. Who is unable to feed him or herself. The resident is sitting in a chair in an inappropriate position for eating. So it doesn't matter what your brain tells you, what your eyes tell you. You have to say, can you please sit up straight? So looking at you, you don't look like I would be able to feed, you look like, but the care plan says that you're not in an appropriate position for eating. So I would tell you, could you please sit up straight for me? Make sense? Good? Okay. It says to document intake on a food and fluid intake form. So that form is going to be located in the back of your book on page 169. So you can see a sample of it. Do you see on that form where it has snack and meal? According to our care plan, which one did we feed the patient? A snack. That's right. Now you're going to check off how much they ate, but they're only eating 4 bites. And the spoon is supposed to be half full, which we'll get to in a minute. So 25% is what they're going to be eating for the test. Good? Good? Okay. All right, so we know all of the principles. Let's focus on our skill-specific steps here. So this is different than other skills that we do in a couple of different ways. The first is we don't use a barrier on our table because our food tray becomes the barrier. So the food tray is separating that food from the table. When you start this skill, the evaluator will already have a food tray on the table with a single serve pudding or applesauce cup, a napkin, a spoon, a fork, and a cup of water. That's what will be on the tray. Single serve pudding or applesauce, napkin, spoon, fork, and cup of water. So if we're going to feed somebody applesauce or pudding, are we using the fork or the spoon? They're looking to see, are you using the right utensil? I know, it's silly, but they're still looking. Good? It's the only skill we do not close the privacy curtain for. Eating is a social event. People gather in groups to eat. They have conversations. Go out to lunch after class today. You have my permission to go to a restaurant for science. And when you walk in that restaurant, is it completely silent? No, in fact, it'd be really creepy. If you walked into a restaurant full of people and it's silent, that would be creepy. People have conversations during meals. You don't eat with your mouth full. While you're chewing, you're listening to somebody else talk. And then when you swallow, they take a bite and you start talking. This is how we have conversations during meals. You must have a conversation with your patient, because if you do not, if you feed somebody in silence, it's awkward, they will not eat. You have to have a conversation and you're graded on it. You also must sit. It's the only skill that requires that you sit. And that's because if I feed somebody and I'm standing and they're sitting, this is a power dynamic. They will feel rushed. They will feel incompetent. They will feel ashamed, and they're not going to eat well. I need to sit at their level and don't rush. So I'm going to have a seat. We're going to have a conversation, and we're going to make this a pleasant experience, not shoving food into somebody's mouth. That's not what I'm doing here. So the way we do this is going to matter a lot. Make sense? Good. All right. And you're actually graded on having a conversation. Up until now, most of our communication with our patient is telling them what we're doing. I'm going to put the gait belt around your waist. I'm going to tighten the gait belt. I'm going to lift you to a standing position. I'm going to count. You know, we're telling them what we're doing. This skill, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say, okay, I'm putting some applesauce on the spoon and I'm bringing it to your mouth and open. That's very awkward. People know how to eat. Don't do that. That's just demeaning. We're not going to do that. We're going to have a conversation. Now, for the test, it doesn't have to be a real conversation, but it does have to be a conversation. So you can say something like, they're showing a movie on the big screen in the activity room later today. I think it's Casablanca. I've never seen that movie. Have you ever seen that movie? You know, have a fake conversation, but make sure it's conversation. Good. One of the things that I like to do with patients, if I'm feeding them in their room, is look around, because people will put things up that they're willing to talk about. And if I see a black and white photo on a wall of a woman, and these women knew how to dress, they put us to shame. If I see a picture of a woman, black and white picture of a woman and a man in a military uniform, I'm going to point to that picture and I'm going to say, oh my gosh, they're gorgeous. Did you know them? Were they movie stars or something? Look at that. That's gorgeous. What a beautiful pic. Who were these people? Watch her sit up straighter. Oh, honey, that was me. Now, what did I do? First of all, I gave us something to talk about. Second of all, I improved her self-esteem, which will automatically improve her appetite. Third, I showed interest in her as a human, not just a patient. All of those things are going to affect how well she relates to me and how well she eats. So I look around the environment. I look for ways to compliment my patients, to form a connection. Good? Okay. If I'm in a congregate dining area, I have some questions that I usually ask. One of my favorite questions is, what's the most exciting place you've ever been? Now, you guys have all been somewhere. So you're now thinking about all the places you've been, trying to figure out which one's the most exciting that you can talk about. We've got lots of opportunities there for conversation. I have been on over 30 cruises. You don't think that gives me something to talk about? That's not something that a lot of people can say. So think about your life and what you can talk about if they don't have anything to contribute. But you have to talk. Do not feed somebody in silence. Good? All right. So we want to make sure that patient is upright for eating. We know our care plan says they're not, so we have to assist or cue the resident to sit up straight. And for the test, it's just as simple as, can you please sit up straight? Okay. We're going to offer a hand wipe and a clothing protector before we feed them. Now, hand wipes for two reasons. Number one, even though I'm feeding them, it doesn't mean they're paralyzed. Did it say they were paralyzed in the care plan? Did it say they can't move their hands in the care plan? No, it told me to feed them. Didn't tell me anything about why. I don't need to know why. I need to know what I have to do. So I'm going to give them a hand wipe because if I miss or if things start falling out of their mouth or anything, they're going to take their hand and put it up. Do I want a dirty hand up by their mouth while I'm feeding them? So hand wipe, important for infection control. The second reason is that most people wash their hands before they eat. It's part of the eating ritual. If you don't, you should wash your hands before you eat. It's part of the eating ritual. So if somebody is used to washing their hands before they eat, giving them a hand wipe will help stimulate the appetite because they know, okay, it's eating time. Let me use a hand wipe my hands. I'm good. Let's go. Let's eat. Okay. Clothing protector we're going to offer. Now, I'm the type of person that I wear everything I eat. Everything. I don't know why. I'm a magnet. So you offer me a clothing protector, I'm going to say, yeah, we're going to need that, right? Because I am going to wear it. Now, my grandmother, prim and proper, you offer her a clothing protector, and she's going to tell you in no uncertain terms, I am not a child. I don't need one of those. Okay, they're two totally separate perspectives, and we're going to honor both. We're going to offer, would you like a clothing? We don't call them bibs. These are not children. Would you like a clothing protector? If they say yes, we'll use one. If they say no, we won't, but we're going to give them the option. Okay? You're going to have a seat to feed the patient, very important. And we're going to offer a drink before we feed them and every 2 to 3 bites as we feed them. Now, how many bites did I tell you the patient's going to take? So that means that we're offering a drink before, and sometime before they get to, I don't want anymore, they should have had another offer. That's why they pick 4. Understand that? Okay, now they can say no. Perfectly okay. Everybody has different eating preferences. We don't think about this, but everybody has different eating preferences. Some people eat all of one thing on their plate before they move to another thing. Some people take a little of this and a little of that, and they kind of move around their plate. Some people eat their salad before the meal. Some people eat their salad after the meal. Different options. Some people like corn and mashed potatoes mixed. Some people cannot stand their foods to touch, and you definitely don't mix. Everybody has different eating preferences. Do not assume that your way of eating is the way your patients prefer to eat. And I've got a story for this. I went into a nursing home one time to see a patient when I was a hospice nurse. She had a stroke, but she had end-stage cancer, and she was being fed in the dining room by a CNA, and she was nonverbal. The stroke had robbed her of her ability to communicate, but she was still very mentally there, and she could communicate with her face. She's very expressive. And I walked in, and it was lunchtime. I walked down to the dining room and I said, "Hey, Mary, how you doing? What's for lunch today?" And I looked at the plate, and it's a big glob of gray goo. And I look at that and go, "Ugh, that doesn't look so good. What are we having for lunch?" And I asked the CNA, "What's for lunch today?" And she says,
Today, I think it's like Salisbury steak, mashed potatoes, and beets. And I went, okay, but what's that? She said, Salisbury steak, mashed potatoes, and beets. I said, mixed? You mix that? She says, yeah, it's pureed. They don't taste it. Oh, no, they taste every bit. I said, would you eat Salisbury steak, mashed potatoes, and beets mixed? She says, no, that's disgusting. I looked at Mary. I said, do you like this? And Mary rolled her eyes and, put her head back and was very, very expressive that she did not like that. And I said, pureed does not mean no taste. It means that we reduce the texture for no chew. All the taste is still there. Please go get her another tray. CNA gave me an attitude, but did go and get another tray. Please remember that the things that you think you know may not be right. All she had to do was look at the patient to see the patient did not like what was being served. Just because they're nonverbal doesn't mean they're non-communicative. Okay? So we're going to offer a drink before and every 2 to 3 bites. Just like we have different eating preferences, we also have different drinking preferences. Some people drink before a meal. My aunt was like that. She would drink an entire glass of water before she ate anything. She was a model as a teenager. And this is what she had done her whole life. She drank a whole glass of water. It filled her up. So she ate very little. And this is how she kind of kept her figure as she aged. So that was her routine. You couldn't get her to eat anything if she didn't have a whole glass of water first. She was terrified she'd overeat. Now, I've tried that. Doesn't work for me. It does not work for me. So I'm more of I'm going to drink every couple bites because I don't produce a lot of saliva. You can see how much I drink up here. And that's because my mouth dries out very quickly. So for me, I have to take a drink every 2 or 3 bites because my mouth gets too dry to be able to process what I'm eating. So I take a drink every 2 to 3 bites. Now, my husband's totally opposite. He doesn't drink before the meal. He doesn't drink during the meal. He saves his drink for after the meal. And everybody's a little bit different. Don't assume that the way that you approach eating is the way your patient's going to approach eating. And that's why we're going to offer before and every 2 to 3 bites because everybody's a little different. Okay? All right. We're going to feed slowly. We're going to give them time to chew and swallow. Now, for the test, it's just pudding or applesauce. No chewing required. They're just going to swallow. The spoon should only be half full. Half full. We're not going to overload. So this is kind of a slow process. We're going to sit. We're going to offer a drink, get a half full spoon of food, put it in their mouth, and we're going to have a conversation while they're chewing and swallowing. And after 2 or 3 bites, we'll offer a drink, and then we'll give them another bite or 2, and then they're going to say, I'm done. I'm full. I don't want any more. Go away. Okay. So our responsibility here is to encourage them. Remember, we follow the care plan. We encourage the patient to follow the care plan. And if we can't get them to do that, then we tell the nurse. So we are going to encourage. They only took 4 bites. That's not a meal. That's not a snack. That's not enough. So we are then going to encourage them. And we're going to say something like, are you sure you don't want just 1 more bite? I turn up the charm. I am really hard to say no to when I become charming. And I've already developed a relationship with them. I've had a seat. We've had a conversation. They like me. So, oh, come on, Miss Mary. Are you sure you don't want just 1 more bite for me? Because I don't want to get up yet. Come on, just 1 more. I can get somebody to take another bite, even if they don't want it. Now, if they're not going to take a bite, if they continue to say no, I'm going to offer them something else because maybe this just isn't it. It's not doing it for them. We've all had those days. We make something in the kitchen, we take a bite, we're like, nope, not it, not what I was looking for. Maybe they're having that day. This just isn't it. So I'll offer them something else. You want something else from the kitchen? The last thing that I do is tell them, if you get hungry later, please let me know.
We've got snacks available, and I'll bring you something to eat. I don't want them to feel like this is an all or nothing thing. So I'm interested in their nutritional status. I'm not just shoving food in their mouth and they say I'm done and go, thank God I got stuff to do, you know, and then just rush away. We want them to feel like they're valued, like we care. That's what this is all about. Make sense? All right, we're going to leave the area around the mouth. We've talked about this. We talked about it with mouth care. We talked about it with denture care. Here we are again. We're going to take that clothing protector if they're wearing it and make sure the area is clean. If they're not wearing a clothing protector, we'll use the napkin, but wipe their mouth. And then we're going to clean up. Now, all disposables go in the trash. That's where they go. Makes sense. It's a single serve pudding or applesauce. It's a disposable. Throw it away. The cup, disposable. Throw it away. So the only thing we're going to have left at the end is the tray. It goes right back on the table. Good? Good. This is what the tray is going to look like for the state exam. We just put it right back on the table. Let's talk about gloves real quick. Gloves should not be worn during feeding unless the care plan tells us to. You are not in that patient's mouth. You are on the other end of a spoon. You do not need gloves on. Gloves have an odor to them, particularly latex gloves. That odor is a known appetite suppressant. When you are at the other end of the spoon, where is that glove? Right under the nose, which means it's going to affect your patient's appetite. They are going to smell the glove, not the food. So unless the care plan is telling you to wear a glove, there's no need to wear a glove for this skill. We're going to wash our hands before and we're going to wash our hands after. After we wash our hands, we're going to document. Now, this patient only took 4 half-full spoons of food. That's only 25%. This will always be for the test, 25%. Drink, it really depends. What did they drink? Did they drink at all? They may have said no all the way through, possible. But this person's getting ready to test, so they might have a dry mouth because they're nervous. They may drink that whole cup of water. In that case, it would be 100%. So remember, details matter for this skill. Details matter. You're going to sit while you feed them. You'll offer a hand wipe before feeding. You'll offer a clothing protector and a drink before feeding and every 2 to 3 bites. You're going to let them lead. Don't rush. The spoon should only be half full, and don't use any childlike feeding techniques. No planes, trains, or automobiles. Now let's talk about feeding percentages. Now we saw this on the documentation sheet a few minutes ago, but I want to talk to you a little bit about percentages. Most of the time, in most settings, you're going to be documenting their eating using a percentage scale. If they cleaned their plate, it's 100%. They ate it all. If they didn't eat anything, it's 0%. Everything else is a gray area in between, and it's a judgment call. If they ate about half, we're going to give them credit for half. If they ate more than half but didn't quite finish, that's 75. If they ate not quite half, but they did try, that's 25. This is judgment on your part. It's the only time CNAs are allowed to employ judgment. That's it. This is it. Judgment. So, if we look at this plate, if this is what we start with, we have a sandwich, broccoli, and Jell-O. And we pick up the plate, and this is what we pick up. They ate about 25%. They ate a bite of the sandwich, a stalk of the broccoli, a couple pieces of Jell-O. They didn't refuse. It's not 0, but that's not half. Not half. If we pick this plate up, yeah, they ate almost everything. Not quite, though. Not quite. It's more than half, but not really all. So we're going to call that 75%. Now, if I go pick up the plate and it looks like this, that's pretty much almost half. So I'm going to call that 50%. Now, if I pick this up, I'm going to give them credit for 100%. I know there's stalks, really don't count, guys. Okay. And 2 pieces of Jell-O, close enough to call. So this is going to get 100%. Notice I didn't say 82. Okay. It's 0, 25, 50, 75, and 100. Now, I told you that that's the only time you'll use judgment. In most cases, you're going to judge food using that quarter scale. But fluids, we use a different scale for. If the patient is on intake and output measurements, that means that we are keeping track, number track, of how much fluid went into that body and how much fluid came out of that body every shift. This is much more scientific, where our quarter scale is judgment, close enough. This is not. This is hard numbers. We don't guess here. Good? Good. All right. So in healthcare, we don't use ounces. We use cc's or mLs. cc's or mLs is what we use for all scientific measurements. The problem is that a lot of times our brains want to think in ounces because here in America, that's what we're comfortable with. So we have to convert from ounces to mLs. cc's and mLs, same thing. 2 names, same thing. So we have to convert. And the way that we convert, when you go to work, wherever you go to work, you're going to go through orientation. And part of orientation is they're going to tell you, okay, these are our water cups that we use here, and our water cups are 6 ounces. Well, but we document in cc's. So that 6-ounce cup has to be converted to cc's. So every ounce is worth 30 cc's. So if 1 ounce is 30, 6 ounces would be 180. 8 ounces would be 240. So I would multiply the 8 by 30 to get 240, or the 6 by 30 to get 180. So when you go to work and they tell you our water cups are 6 ounces, our juice cups are 8 ounces, our coffee cups are 12 ounces, whatever it is, you need to know that, because when you go pick up that tray, you need to know, okay, they had an entire cup of coffee. That was 12 ounces. I learned that in orientation. That's 360 mLs. And that's what we're going to document. You will have a math question on the state exam. It will either be a conversion question. The patient drank 8 ounces of milk, how many mLs? Or it's going to be an addition question where your patient took in 240 mLs of milk, 120 mLs of water, 240 mLs of coffee. What is the total intake for the day? You will get, during the exam, during the written exam, you will get a little whiteboard. They don't give you scratch paper. The whiteboard is your scratch paper and a little dry erase marker that you can do math on. So page 106 in your book, your spiral book, has an activity there for you to practice estimating food percentages. But here at the bottom of the second column, let's do this together. This is a conversion. So here we have 6 ounces of juice. We would multiply that 6 by 30. So how many cc's would that be? 180. So write 180 there. Yep, write 180 there. Now let's look at that milk carton for a second. Prepackaged items will have the ounces, but they always have the mLs as well. So if you look at that water bottle right there in front of you, you'll see that it should say 15.9 ounces or 16.9 ounces. And right next to it, it should have the mLs. How many mLs? 500, that's correct. So prepackaged items have both ounces and mLs. We're going to go by whatever's on the package because it's most accurate. So this package tells us 240 mLs. So that's what we're going to write here. That's how much the patient drank is 240. So we have 180 for number 9, 240 for number 10. And how much is 12 ounces of coffee? 12 times 30 is? Anybody? 360. So we would put 360 there. Now, at the end of the shift, we have to add all of this up to find out what is the total intake for this patient for the shift. So we would add up 180 and 240 and 360. Anybody want to try that out? 780, that's right. So 780 would be the total intake per shift. So you will either have a conversion question on the exam or you'll have an addition question on the exam. If you go to page 132, I want to talk to you just really briefly about medical abbreviations. I have an activity in the book for this as well. Anything that is highlighted in gray, it means you need to know. If it's highlighted in gray, we need to know it. But the one I really want to pay attention to right now is way down here toward the end of the first column. It says NPO. NPO means nothing by mouth. If you're trying to make it make sense in English, you're not going to, because it's not English. It is abbreviated Latin. Latin is the language of science. Because way back in the 14 and 1500s, everybody that went to university learned Latin. So if somebody in Germany made a discovery and somebody in France made a discovery, they can't tell each other because French doesn't speak to German and German doesn't speak to French, but they both learned Latin. So Latin is the language of science. A lot of what we do in science is based on Latin words. So NPO is abbreviated from the Latin words for nothing by mouth. Now, if you go up here, you see PRN, same thing. That is abbreviated Latin. STAT, same thing, abbreviated Latin. And then we get to BID and TID. And this really confuses students. B stands for bi. How many wheels are on a bicycle? 2. Bi means 2. So BID means 2 times a day. TID, T stands for tri. How many wheels are on a tricycle? 3. So TID is 3 times a day. Now below that you have QH. Q stands for every in Latin. Quaque, which is every. And I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but quaque means every. So QH is every hour, or quaque ora, which is every hour. Q2H would mean every 2 hours. Q4H is every 4 hours. Yeah, you now know how to read a prescription. PRN, as needed. Those are your pain meds. Q4 hours, every 4 hours. Q6 hours, every 6 hours. Good? Then we come to the most confusing one for CNAs, QHS. Well, we know Q means every. So what does HS mean? Now we know it's Latin, and this is how in Latin you said bedtime. Hour of sleep is loosely translated. So QHS is every bedtime. So this is something we do when the patient goes to bed. Good? Now, some of them are abbreviated English, which really makes things confusing, right? So if you go down to A and O, that's alert and oriented. That is absolutely English because this came along way after. This is recent. not based in Latin. ADLs, we know what that means, activities of daily living. That's recent, so that's English. BM, bowel movement, that's English. So some of these are very old terms rooted in Latin. Some of these are more recent terms rooted in English. Learn them all. Make flashcards.
So for these,
They're not going to be on the state exam. Nobody,
like at your workplace.
right. No, there's no questions on the state exam that says, what does BID mean? But it could be in the question. So you are assigned, oh wait, that's a follow the care plan question. You are assigned to perform range of motion BID, resident's right shoulder. When you go into the room, the resident says they're too tired. You would A, follow the care plan, B, notify the nurse, C and D, right? So BID had nothing to do, it was in the question. It's not going to affect the answer, but your brain could get stuck on that BID and try to make it into something that mattered.
So they won't ask it like when we do the physical part of it. I'm thinking.
You actually have the care plans for every skill that you're going to be doing in the book that we talk about them in here. So you've already seen all the care plans and none of them have QHS, QH, BID, TID, none of that. The ones that you absolutely need to know are ADLs, BM, because we monitor bowel movements, ADLs because it's what we do. You need to know CNA because that's who we are. You need to know NPO so you don't give people food that can't have food, because that's what we do is help with feeding. And we need to know RN because that's who we report to. Those are the ones that we absolutely positively need to know for the test. Okay? The rest of the ones that are highlighted, you need to know for work. The rest of them are things that you're probably going to come into contact with. And this is just a good thing to keep in your back pocket when you first start work. So you're able to look these up pretty quickly. Now, the next two pages, pages 133, actually, I think it's just 133. 133 is a activity that helps you utilize these in a way that makes sense, how they're going to be used in a clinical setting. So this kind of helps you apply those words or those terms to real world communication. So intake and output, what we've talked about is on page 107. This is when we measure all fluids in and all fluids out of a patient during a shift. So CNAs are going to monitor fluids that go in by mouth and fluids that come out through normal means, urine, emesis, if they're throwing up, right? We would measure that. Nurses are going to measure fluids that go in by other means, like IVs, wound irrigations. And nurses measure fluids that come out by other means, such as wound drainage. We're going to take all of those numbers, the numbers the CNAs recorded and the numbers the nurses recorded, to come up with a total that went into the patient that shift and a total that came out of the patient that shift to make sure they're roughly in balance. If I have 1,000 going into a patient over all manners for that shift, but the patient only gave me 200 out, I got 800 still on that patient somewhere. I got to figure out where that 800 cc's of fluid is. Because if it's in the lungs, that's a bad day. If it's in the tissues, the patient is swelling somewhere. I got to figure that out. Okay. We don't do intake and output on every single patient in every setting. This is very select. But if you're assigned to do intake and output, you need to know these rules on page 107. So now we know all the steps. Let's apply them to our checklist. We're going to follow the care plan. We're going to do our opening. We're going to evaluate if we need gloves. You shouldn't for the test. We're going to follow our linen rules. Don't hold anything up against your uniform. Nothing goes on the floor but shoes. We're going to follow our steps for feeding a resident. And we're going to do our closing at the end. And remember, this is a documentation skill. So we wash our hands, we document, and then we wash our hands again. Now, this care plan is only for this patient, not for any of these. This one, she feeds herself. You are not involved in her feeding. This one has a feeding tube. Nurse feeds him. And this lady, you do help her with food. She feeds herself. You just have to open her milk and cut her meat for her. Every patient is going to have a different care plan. Good? Any questions on that? I'm going to show you the video for this. Now remember that our care plan told us that we had 9 minutes to do this skill. That's a long time to feed somebody 4 bites. Don't rush this. The whole video, I think, takes 4 minutes. So it's not a very long skill. Don't rush this. All right, Jake, we need the video for feeding, please.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. Could I ask you to sit up straight before we get started, please? How are you?
I'm good.
Fantastic. Would you like to eat a snack?
Yes, that'd be lovely.
Okay, I'd be happy to help you with that. Let me go wash my hands, get my supplies, and I'll be right back. Okay, Mr. Jones, I'll give you a hand wipe so you can clean your hands before we feed you. Okay, would you like to take the hand wipe?
Yes, please. Thank you.
And go ahead and clean your hands. Thank you very much. I'll dispose of this in the trash. And would you like a clothing protector?
Yes, please.
I'm going to go get one for you. Okay, Mr. Jones, I'm going to take this clothing protector and put it over your chest. This will just protect your clothing while I feed you. And I'm going to pull up a chair. How are you doing today?
Very good.
Wonderful. Would you like a sip of water?
Yes, please.
Okay. And we have cinnamon applesauce. How does that sound?
Great.
Wonderful. Here we go. We're going to fill the spoon less than half full. And do you enjoy sports?
Yes.
What sport do you like?
Football.
Oh, I do too. Did you watch the big game yesterday?
I was so happy my team won.
Oh, it was such a great game. I couldn't believe in that last quarter what happened. Another bite?
Yes, please.
There you go. Would you like a drink?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, my favorite team doesn't win very often. Usually when I'm watching, they're guaranteed to lose.
Usually for me as well.
Would you like another bite?
No, thank you.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Can I get you something else from the kitchen?
No, thank you.
Okay, if you get hungry later, please let me know.
I will.
Okay. All right, I'm just going to take this clothing protector off. And we'll clean your face. I'm going to put this in dirty linen. I'm going to dispose of all the disposables. And we'll return the tray to the bedside table. Just going to move this to the side. And are you comfortable?
Yes.
Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here?
No, thank you.
Would you like a magazine before I go?
No, thank you.
Let me get your call light for you. There's your
Thank you.
call light. If you need anything at all, just hit that red button. We'll be happy to come help. I'm going to go wash my hands and document. After washing my hands, I'll document the amount of food the patient ate and the amount of fluid that they drank. Once I'm done documenting, I'm going to go wash my hands one final time. My hands, I'll think about the steps to my skill, make any corrections, and tell the evaluator my skill is done. Any questions on that one? I think personally that that's one of the easier skills to do. Just remember, it doesn't follow our normal rules. We're not going to close the curtain. We have to sit and we have to have a conversation. So remember that those three things are different for this particular skill. All right, last skill for today. We are going to learn how to do Peri-Care on an incontinent patient. We're going to talk about each one of those terms in just a moment. I'm going to explain what you need to know about incontinence, and we're also going to do a review on normal urinary elimination so that we understand how this is not normal. Okay, the differences between the two. So a little bit of a lecture here, but by the time we're done with this, you should have about 45 minutes, maybe a little bit more of practice time built into class today. So if you look here, down, oh, hold on. Sorry. There we go. If you look down the side here, you can see all of the principles involved. We're going to use everything but shoe rules for this skill. So that's why we wait toward the end to do this one, because we have to know all of these principles, and we're going to put them all to work in this skill. So there's a lot here. There's a lot of steps. 10 principles. But we know to follow the care plan. We know to do our opening. We're definitely going to need gloves because it's Peri-Care, which is below the belt, personal skin. We know that we have to have a clean place to put our supplies. We know our patient's going to be uncovered, so we need a privacy blanket. We know not to hold the towels up against us or put them on the floor. We know the patient should always be in the middle of the bed. We know our washing rules, and we know how to clean a basin. We also know how to end every skill. So even though this looks intimidating, when you look at this going, oh my gosh, there's a lot of steps there, we know them all. What we do have to learn, though, is the Peri-Care steps, and that's what we're going to focus on. Down here, our test-specific information, somebody with your level of experience, which is none, should be able to do this skill in 17 minutes or less. Now, up until now, I've told you that you've got plenty of time, right? Way more time than you need. This one is a little bit closer to reality. So you really kind of need to know what you're about here. Know the steps. This is one you really want to practice. And this is going to be done on a mannequin. And most of you guys don't have a mannequin at home. So if you're going to practice any skills in this classroom, it should be mannequin skills, because those are the things you don't have at home. The mannequin's going to be positioned in bed, and you're going to talk to her just like she's a real person. The evaluator will answer you. This is not a documentation skill. No charting is required. So step-by-step instructions are located on page 153. We have a care plan at the top. We have all of our supplies at the bottom. You do have to learn your supplies. If you don't know your supplies, get the flashcards. This is our care plan. Female patient has been incontinent of urine and needs perineal care, or Peri-Care is how it's usually pronounced. The pad under the resident is wet, but the hospital gown and bedding is dry. That is a miracle. It will never happen that way in real life. If somebody is wet, their gown is wet. You're probably going to have to change the gown. But we're going to take the gift they give us for the test and just clean the patient. So we know all of these principles. What we don't know is this one. So let's spend a little time learning these steps. Before we can talk about the steps, though, we have to learn about what incontinence actually is. What does that term mean? And what does it mean inside the body? So this is a normal elimination system. We have 2 kidneys. Those kidneys filter blood 24 hours a day. Never stops, ever stops. They don't take coffee breaks. There's no vacation. Every single second, blood is pumping through the kidneys. The kidneys are pulling out waste products and creating urine with that. As the kidneys do their job and produce urine, that urine drips little bits at a time. Drip, 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 down tubes called ureters. As the drips travel down those tubes, they're going to accumulate in the bladder. The bladder fills. Your brain says, go find a bathroom. You go find a bathroom. And you open a little valve here at the base of the bladder. This valve is what allows that urine to stay in the bladder. Without that valve, the urine would just come right out. So you go to the bathroom, that valve opens, and whatever's in that bladder comes out. Once you're done peeing, that valve closes, and now we're ready to start all over. This is a normally functioning urinary system. When we have incontinence, the part that's broken is the valve. Kidneys still filter blood 24 hours a day. No coffee breaks, no vacations. Every second, blood is moving through the kidney. It's pulling out those waste products and creating drips of urine. Those drips are going to still go down those ureters. Drip, 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 drip. The problem is because that valve is not working, those drips are going to come right out of the patient. Drip, drip, drip. That means your incontinent patients are going to be wet all the time. If you have a patient who is dry, 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 really, really wet, you do not have an incontinent patient. You have incompetent staff members that aren't getting that patient to the bathroom. You have lazy staff. Incontinent patients means this valve doesn't work, so it can't hold anything in the bladder. That incontinent patient cannot be dry, ever. As soon as you get that patient cleaned up, they're going to be wet again. Constant. You have to understand the mechanics of this. And the reason that I'm saying this is because we had a situation here in Florida about 7 or 8 years ago where a male caregiver had no idea what incontinence was. He was assigned to clean up a female resident. He turned her on her side and urine came out, and he beat her to death because she disrespected him by peeing on him. He beat her to death because he did not understand incontinence. I have to cover this with you guys. If you don't understand how something works or why something is happening, do not punish the patient. Ask the nurse. That was heartbreaking. Your incontinent patients are going to be wet all the time. Now, that's a problem because adult urine is not like baby urine. The acidity level of your urine is based entirely on what you eat and drink. Babies, they eat and drink formula and rice cereal. Everything is very bland. There's no flavor. There's no acid. Their urine is very mild, very neutral. You can put a diaper on a baby, put them in their crib, wake up 8 hours later, and they'll still have skin on their little tushes, right? Because the urine that's been sitting up against that skin is very mild. Adults, we eat acid. We eat a lot of acid. A lot of acid. You like coffee? Acid. You like soda? Acid. You like fruit? Acid. Do you like tomatoes? Tomato sauce? Acid. Almost everything that we eat and drink is acid based. And how do we excrete that acid? Through the urine. So what do you think is going to happen when you hold acid against skin for a long period of time? It's going to eat the skin. Adult urine, not like baby urine. Totally different. So this is why when we have an incontinent patient and they're wet all the time, our responsibility is to clean that skin every 2 hours around the clock. We're not doing it to keep the patient dry. They're never going to be dry. We're doing it to reduce the acid on that skin. Good? Did you learn anything there? Let's talk about adult briefs. We do not call them diapers. These are adults. If it's a child term, you do not use it on an adult. These are called adult briefs. They may be called depends. These are not optimal. They're plastic lined, right? Because they have to be waterproof. That means they're going to hold in body heat and block out light. So you have warm, dark, moist. What grows there? Everything bad. Yeah, bacteria, pathogens, fungi, mold, all kinds of really bad stuff. So if we have an adult brief on a patient, we still have to clean them up every 2 hours around the clock because you still have that acid against the skin. But now we have an additional risk. We have the possibility of infections as well. Appropriate when they're out of bed, interacting with others because nobody wants to wet themselves. Perfectly appropriate. Put a depends on them. Clean them up every 2 hours around the clock. Don't skip that step, but appropriate. But if they're in bed, there is a better way. I don't want to put an adult brief on a patient that's in bed all the time. It's going to hold that urine right up next to the skin. Instead, the care plan may have us have the patient open to air, which means they have no adult brief on. They are laying on a pad. That pad is going to pull that urine away from the skin. Spread it out over the pad so we're not blocking out light. We're not holding in heat. We reduce our likelihood of infection by having the patient on a pad. But we learned a principle last week that room temperature always wins. You guys remember that? Do you remember what body temperature is? About 98.6 roughly. Let's just make it 98 for easy. Okay, 98 degrees is body temperature. Our urine is made in our furnace area. So urine is actually just a little bit warmer than body temperature when it comes out because it's right around our heat center. So urine when it comes out is about 100, 101 degrees. That's how hot urine is when it comes out. Now that 100 or 101 degree urine is going to hit air temperature. And room temperature always wins, which means that that urine on that pad is going to cool down to room temperature. What do you think that's going to feel like to the patient? Cold. That's right. That pad is going to feel a little cold, a little wet, a little slimy, a little ick. So what do you think the first thing that patient wants done? Yeah, dry pad. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to change the pad out from under the patient to make it more comfortable, but we got a wet butt on a clean pad. We're going to clean the front of the patient. We're going to turn them on their side using scoot and roll. We're going to clean the back side of the patient to get the urine off of the skin. And now we've got a clean butt. I'm going to change that pad one more time. So I've got a clean butt on a clean pad at the end of the skill. So we change the pad at first for comfort. We change the pad at the end for longevity. It's got to last another 2 hours. Good? Questions? So we want to change that pad first to make our patient comfortable. Do you guys remember this? We learned this last class. We have our washcloth. It's a plain square washcloth folded in half and in half again, just a little square, but we're going to turn it as a diamond with the free corners at the top. Hold the side in by my thumb, hold the other side in by my pinky, and I now have a cleaning surface. We're going to use this on the genitals and the rectal area. So we will use the leaves method when we clean the front. We will also use the leaves method when we clean the back. So the first step we're going to do is change that pad out from under the patient using clean rolls toward me, dirty rolls away. You don't have, you know this already. Nothing new to learn there. You're going to wash from top to bottom using the leaves method. So I'm going to wring this washcloth out really well, and I'm going to apply soap to 5 corners. So soap, 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 soap. And I'm going to hold it in my hand, and I want to retract a little bit and open her a little up so I can get down the inside middle. So my hand doesn't reach up that high, but you would hold her open a little bit. You're going to reach, or you're going to clean top to bottom. Once you get to the bottom, move away. Don't go back up ever, 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 ever. It is top to bottom, move away. We're going to fold that over. I've washed the inside middle now. I want to wash around that, the outside. So top to bottom, fold that over. Top to bottom, fold that over. Now this area between the leg and the groin, this crease has to be cleaned as well. So top to bottom, fold that over, top to bottom. Now this has been soiled, so it's going to go on my barrier. I'm going to get washcloth number 2 because whatever I wash, I rinse. So I'm going to wring out washcloth number 2, no soap. I'm going to hold it in my hand, same way. I'm going to hold her open, same way. I'm going to go right down the middle, top to bottom, same way. And I'm going to fold that over because whatever we wash, we rinse the exact same way. We're going to go top to bottom down one side, fold it over, top to bottom down the other side, fold it over, top to bottom down the skin fold it over, top to bottom down the skin fold. This is going to be set aside on the barrier. We're not going to reuse it because of where it's been. Then I'm going to dry top to bottom. Good? Now I'm going to scoot the patient toward me, roll them up on their side, and we're going to clean the back. Now, I want you to understand that there's 5 steps to this. Inside, outside, outside, skin fold, skin fold. They have to be done in that order. It doesn't matter if you do this side first or this side first, but inside, outside, outside, skin fold, skin fold. Has to be done in that order. You don't want to clean out here and then work your way in. It's inner to outer. Yes?
The question was soap, rinse, and then when you dry, we use another.
Dry, you're just going to dry with a towel.
With a towel.
Just a towel, just a plain towel, just top to bottom. The whole goal here is to always go top to bottom, never back up. That's what they're grading us on. Always top to bottom, never back up. Or another way of looking at it, front to back. Scoot the patient towards you, roll them up on their side, and now we're going to clean their backside. So I'm going to take washcloth number 3. I'm going to wring it out really well, no drippy wet washcloths. I'm going to hold it in my hand with free leaves at the top, and I'm going to soap 4 corners this time. So soap, 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 soap. And now I'm going to clean the backside. I'm going to start at the anal opening, and I'm going to go away from the urethra, always away from the front. So I put my washcloth in the middle of the crease, and I go right up that crease. I'm going to fold that over. Now I'm going to clean one cheek So starting down here, go up and around, fold that over. I'm going to clean the other cheek. Up and around, fold that over. And now I'm going to go again from the middle all the way up because this kind of acts like a riverbed. All the urine's going to run right down that crease. So crease one more time. This is going to be set aside. Whatever we wash, we rinse the exact same way. So washcloth number 4 would be rinsed the exact same way. And then we dry with the towel. Always away from, always front to back. Good. Now we've got a clean front. We have a clean back. Let's change that pad out using clean rolls toward me, dirty rolls away. And then we'll clean up. That's the whole skill. It's not a hard skill. It is a long skill, but it's not a hard skill. Any questions on that? Okay, so let's use all of those to check off our checkpoints. We're going to follow the care plan. We're going to do our opening. We definitely need gloves for this, 100%. We're going to use a barrier to put all of our supplies on. We're definitely going to need a privacy blanket because we're uncovering and undressing this patient. We're going to use linen rules. Don't hold anything against your uniform. Nothing goes on the floor. We're going to make sure the patient is in the middle of the bed at all times. And we're going to use our washing rules and clean our basin like we clean everything else. We're going to follow our Peri-Care rules. Now, notice that there's very little that we're actually being graded on for Peri-Care. Almost everything on here are one of the principles. Very few checkpoints have to do specifically with Peri-Care. But the ones that are there count big. Wipe front to back. Don't go back up. So even though there's not a lot of checkpoints here specific to Peri-Care, the ones that are there matter a lot. And then we'll do our closing. Now this care plan is only for this patient. This one, he takes care of himself. This one, she takes care of herself. This one has a catheter, which we're going to go over on Monday. Okay. All right, Jake. Hello, Miss Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you? Wonderful. I need to perform Peri-Care. Is that okay? I'm going to close your curtain, wash my hands, get my supplies. I'll be right back. After washing my hands, I'll get my clean supplies. We're going to place the supplies on an overbed table, and we'll start with a barrier on the table, making sure that the absorbent side is facing up to catch any water spills. This gives us a clean place to put our clean supplies. For this skill, we're going to need 2 chucks. We'll need a towel, 4 washcloths, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a privacy blanket. We'll go to the patient area. And now I'm going to get a basin and soap. We'll place this on the overbed table. And I need a set of gloves. Now I'll go fill the basin. Miss Jones, I'm going to go get some water. I'll be right back. To fill the basin, I'm going to use a paper towel to turn the faucet on because my hands are clean. I'll use my wrist to feel the water temperature. It should feel warm, not hot, not cold, just warm. And we'll fill the basin about a quarter of the way full. Mrs. Jones, would you like to check the water temperature? It's good? Wonderful. I'm going to set this on the barrier. And this is a privacy blanket. This is going to keep you warm and protect your privacy while we do this skill. I'm just going to stretch it out over your sheet. And then I'll pull the sheet down underneath the privacy blanket. And we're going to pull the sheet down to about your knees. Now, I'm going to prepare my chucks. I'll unfold them, hold them up lengthwise, and I'm going to roll it toward me. Clean rolls toward me. All the way to the end. I'll put this on the barrier and do the same with the second. I'm going to open it up. Hold it up lengthwise with the absorbent side facing me and roll it all the way to the end. Clean rolls toward me. We'll set that on the barrier as well. Now I can put my gloves on. I'm going to place the washcloth in the basin to warm. I'll take one of the chucks that's rolled. I'm going to lay it up next to the patient under the soiled chucks. And Miss Jones, if I can have you scoot toward me, please. And we're going to roll up on your right side so I can change the chucks under you. I'll help you roll. Okay, now that you're on your side, I'm going to take the soiled chucks and roll it in. Clean rolls toward me, dirty rolls away. I want to roll it so that the absorbent side is on the inside and the waterproof side is facing up. I'm only going to touch the waterproof side, and I'm going to tuck it underneath the patient's hip. I'll unroll the clean chucks and tuck it underneath the patient's bottom area, under the dirty. Okay, Miss Jones, come on back. Thank you. And if you can scoot to the middle of the bed. Thank you. I'm going to go around to the other side. Go ahead and scoot toward me. Thank you. And roll up on your left side. 1, 2, 3. And I will remove that chucks, the soiled one, and smooth out the clean. We'll fold this up and we're going to throw this directly into the trash can. Okay, Ms. Jones, can you scoot back to the center of the bed, please? Thank you. I'm going to expose you now. I'll make this as brief as possible. Please let me know if you're uncomfortable in any way. I'm going to roll the gown inside the privacy blanket, and this will expose the peri area. And then I'm going to use a towel over the upper thighs to keep all of that area dry. Now we're ready to clean. I'll take the first washcloth, wring it out, and soap 5 corners. We're going to use the leaves method, meaning the free ends are at the top of the diamond shape. I'll spray the first leaf, fold it over, spray the second leaf, fold it over, spray the third leaf, fold it over, spray the fourth leaf, fold it over, and the back. I'll set that aside. Now I'm going to clean the peri area. I'll hold the washcloth in my hand in a diamond shape, tucking in the 2 side corners, making sure I have control over the leaves and they're at the top so that we can minimize cross-contamination. Okay, Miss Jones, I'm going to start cleaning you now. I have to hold you open just a little bit, but let me know if it gets uncomfortable. So I'll take the heel of my hand at the top of the peri area, retract slightly, and spread her open a little bit. And I'm going to clean right down the inside middle, top to bottom, one direction only. Once I reach the bottom, we'll move away and fold that leaf over. I'm going to clean the outside peri area, top to bottom. Fold that leaf over. The other side, top to bottom, making sure I don't ever move back up. Fold that leaf over. The 4th leaf will go right down that skin fold, the crease between the thigh and the groin. We'll fold that over, and then we'll clean this skin fold, top to bottom, and we'll set that aside. Whatever we wash, we rinse. So I'll wring out my washcloth using that same leaves method, tucking in the 2 side corners. I'm going to retract the labia and clean top to bottom. Down the center, fold that leaf over. The 2nd leaf will clean the outside of the peri area, top to bottom. And then we're going to fold that leaf over. The 3rd leaf will clean the outside of the peri area on this side, top to bottom. I'll fold that leaf over. The 4th leaf will clean the crease, top to bottom. I'll fold that leaf over, and then we're going to clean this crease, top to bottom. And now we'll dry. Okay, Miss Jones, I'm just going to unroll your privacy blanket, putting the gown back over your legs, and I'm going to ask you to scoot toward me and roll you on your side so I can clean your backside. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to roll up. 1, 2, 3. We'll expose your backside, and the evaluator will hold the mannequin in place for this process. So now I can clean the backside. I'm going to wring the washcloth out. And this time, we're going to soap 4 leaves. So 1, we'll fold that over. 2, fold that over. 3, fold that over. 4. Set the soap aside. I'm going to start at the anal opening and move up the crease. Just like that. We'll fold that leaf over. I'm going to clean 1 buttocks. We're going to fold that leaf over, clean the other buttocks. We'll fold that leaf over, and then once more up the crease. We'll set this washcloth aside. Whatever we wash, we rinse. So I'll wring that washcloth out really well. I'm going to hold it in that leaves shape. I'm going to rinse right up the center crease. Fold that leaf over. We'll rinse 1 buttocks. Fold that leaf over. Rinse the other buttocks. Fold that leaf over, and then once more up the center crease. Now we'll dry those areas. So starting at the anal opening, we'll dry all of those areas. We'll set that aside. Now I'm going to take the new chucks, place it under the one that's on the bed, and we're going to roll this one toward the patient and tuck it under her hip, and unroll the new one and tuck it under the soil. Okay, Miss Jones, come on back onto your back, please. Thank you, and then scoot to the middle, please. And I'm going to go around and remove that soiled chucks. Go ahead and scoot toward me. And then we're going to roll up on your side. 1, 2, 3. So I'll remove that soiled chucks and smooth out the new one. Come on back onto your back and then scoot to the middle of the bed, please. Thank you. This will be thrown away. Okay, Miss Jones, you're covered. You're in the center of the bed. I'm going to go put your dirty linens away and clean the basin. I'll be right back. These items will go in dirty linen hamper. And I'll clean the basin the same way we clean all basins. We're going to dispose of the water into the sink, rinse the basin, dispose of the rinse water into the sink, set it down, disinfect it per facility policy, use a paper towel to pick it up, paper towel to dry the inside, throw that away, paper towel to dry the outside, throw that away, and one for the drawer. On the way, we'll pick up the soap, place it in the basin, use the paper towel to open the middle drawer, pick up the lotion and put it in the basin, and then store the basin in the drawer. We'll close it with a paper towel and then throw those paper towels away. We'll dispose of the barrier that's on the table and then remove my gloves. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm going to pull your privacy blanket up and put your sheet back in place. We'll make sure that the patient is covered and that we roll the privacy blanket up in a ball as we remove it from the patient. I want to adjust the sheet for neatness and appearance. And I'm going to go place this in dirty linen. Okay, Ms. Jones, are you comfortable? Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here? Would you like a magazine? No? Okay, your environment is clean. Here's your call light. If you need anything at all, just press that red button and somebody will be happy to help you. Your bed is in the low position. I'm going to open your privacy curtain and go wash my hands. We'll return this table to storage before we go, leaving our area clean. After washing my hands, I'll review the care plan, make any corrections, and tell the evaluator my skill is done. When I remove the privacy blanket, so when the blanket is over the patient and I'm pulling it, restoring her gown before I turn her over, when I scoot her toward me and turn her over, I'm only touching the outside of the blanket, not her skin. I know where my hands have just been, right? So I'm trying to minimize exposure. So I'm only touching the outside of the blanket. But when I go to remove the blanket, I know where my hands have been. I know the outside of the blanket has body fluids on. So, and I know I've already taken my gloves off. So when I remove the blanket, I'm removing it from the underside. If you notice, I put my hands like underneath the blanket and then fold it. So I'm never touching the top of the blanket that my body fluid covered gloves touched. Does that make sense? It doesn't really matter because you're going to go wash your hands immediately after. So it's not a big deal, but just for your own knowledge, that's how I do it. So I'm minimizing that pathogen transfer. Good? Good. This skill isn't as hard as it looks. It really isn't. Just remember the important thing is always wash away from the urethra, top to bottom.
You know what I was thinking? That lady, every 2 hours, and you really know,
Mhm.
you have like, I don't know, 10 more people that you have to take care of. You have to put people in every 2 hours and do all that. I think I'm too lazy for that.
Yeah, that's the thing about being a CNA. There's no
Yeah.
time to sit. Yeah,
I know,
it's
I know.
it is on your feet all shift long. I know it's a very they should pay more.
And the lights.
Yep,
the
they
thing
should
you were
pay
talking
more.
about last class, yeah, the lights, they don't stop.
Yep.
They don't stop.
The lights will be diminished if you take care of everything you can while you're in the room. They're on the call lights less.
Mm.
Yeah. Our practice kits will help you with this. It has everything that you need to do all of these skills. So gait belt for transfers, chucks for Peri-Care, all of the mouth care stuff, emesis basin. We even give you a food tray, triangular graduate container, which we're going to get to next class, drainage bag for the catheter, which we're going to get to next class, wash basin, bedpan, dentures, denture cup, all of that stuff is there for you guys. We also have the care plan cards, which you see up here for a quick reference that you can have on the table as you're doing the skill rather than your book, you know, so you can read the care plans. And remember that these are available at a discounted price through graduation, so through Wednesday. Homework tonight, you're going to have chapters 8 and 9. I've already talked to you about that. 8 is on nutrition. Pay attention to the food groups and the special diets. 9 is on rehabilitation. Understand different positions. So that is your homework for the weekend. You'll get a wrap-up after class email that has links to everything. So all of the skills are in there. All the links are in there for everything that we've gone over, plus the replay from today as well. Jake already handed out your review sheet, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off of online. Our virtual people, we're going to say goodbye to so that you've got the rest of the class for practice. So you use, I can't talk. You guys joining us virtually, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. If you're not practicing here, make sure you're practicing somewhere. You've got to do the skills before the test. Make that a priority. So make sure you're practicing. But thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on Monday for class 7. We are so close. Last week is coming up. And next Tuesday is the game show. So I hope to see you there. Until next time, happy caregiving. Bye.